We're live. How is everybody doing? Welcome on in. Let me slide over here. How is everybody doing today? Howdy, howdy, howdy. It's your buddy, your pal, your friend, Mike from PA. We are live once again. Have you seen Hutch's latest insane take? Hutch would rather accept segregationists to the party than parlay with leftists. You cannot make this up. And he got mad. I called him racist.
Who were like pro-segregationists. You'd say like, well, I welcome them within the party, right? They have a D in front of their name, not an R. And so thank you. Like, please, let's fill up with pro-segregationists. You're welcome here.
I mean, we'd be going back to the Democratic Party of, 5 or 6 decades ago, right?
Sorry, that didn't answer my question. Would you welcome
the answer is probably yes. Yeah, in
that
that context, that wouldn't you rather have the New Deal and a Great Society stuff than not? Brian?
Sorry, stop trying to dodge the question.
Wait, isn't the answer yes?
I'm not.
No, hold on. No, it's not. Hold on, we're not time traveling because he's like, oh, now we're going back in time. No, we're not doing that. I'm saying, hey, like for 2025, right, or into 2026, we have brand new pro-segregationists coming into the Democratic Party. Would you welcome them because they have a D in front of their name instead of an R? He says no. Pisco says no. Hutch, what about you? There you go. All right. Yeah. So that's a difference of opinion here, right?
So here's kind of what I would say. Hutch is what we like to call stupid, right? And he watched a college dropout. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a college dropout. If you're an autodidact, and I know a lot of people that have educated themselves outside of a formal classroom and they don't have a, diploma and, blah, blah. They don't have that formal shit. That doesn't matter to me. But what does matter to me, comprehension and knowledge. And the problem is, Destiny doesn't have either of those things. Now, Hutch, being a bald, dumb, failed COD streamer, he became enamored with Destiny, one of the dumbest people in history. And one of the things that Destiny does is he just bites bullets. That's what they call this. I'm biting a bullet, so I remain consistent. Because somebody told him along the way that that if your position carried to an extreme is absurd, you should nonetheless bite the bullet and accept this absurdity. Instead of what every human being throughout history has understood is there are always exceptions, and you can distinguish between different layers of different conditions, different circumstances require different answers. And he's too stupid to understand this. Now, this kind of intuitively, that sometimes the answer is A and sometimes the answer is B. It depends on the circumstances, right? But he's been taught by an illiterate that you should always say the answer is A because that's, quote, consistent. Somehow he's been psyoped into thinking that you need to be consistent no matter what the circumstances are. We, ladies and gentlemen, we call that being brain dead. That's why they're constantly bringing up like, well, what if rape? Because they're stupid. They're actually stupid. And the answer to that question is, of course not. Because the reason why the Democratic Party is supposedly better than the Republican Party is the content of their policies. So if the Democrats are inviting segregationists in, their policies are actually now becoming worse than the Republicans are. So if by winning you have to become worse than the Republicans, that's not a viable option. Why even be a Democrat at that point? You might as well just be a Republican, because if you could imagine someone worse than the Republicans, well, now you can justify voting for them. You understand why political parties cannot just be about winning? They have to have some sort of policy and ideological content in order to value them as better than the other party. And what we're saying is genocide is a reason that the Democratic Party is not worth valuing over the Republican Party. Now, it doesn't mean that they're completely identical on every issue. It just means, hey, Democrats, you see these people, they want to vote for you, and you want to win, you need to change your position on this. And the thing is, Hutch recognizes, and this is the important point, that the Democratic Party is not democratic. And when I see the Democratic Party is not democratic, I think it makes it less likely to win. Because it's not the advantage. And see, this is why, again, why Hutch is stupid and why you need to not watch uneducated people. The reason that democracy is a good system is because elites get thrown out of office when they don't agree with the majority of the people. Okay? That's what makes democracy good, is that there is wisdom in the crowd, and that when elites, because of their own, social context or ideological commitments or whatever, are doing policies that hurt the majority of the people can throw them out of office for new policies. Now, what makes the Democratic Party a problem is that the majority of Democrats cannot change the leadership. It's an anti-democratic party. It is the donors. It is the Washington, D.C. institutions of the Democratic Party that determine who's in power in the Democratic Party. There is no democracy in the Democratic Party. It's an anti-democratic organization. And Hutch knows that, but he supports it nonetheless. And what I'm saying, and what Hassan is saying, and what the progressives are saying is the Democratic Party should do what the majority of Democratic voters want it to do. And this is the problem with these dumb fucks. Now, I personally, here's what I think. I think I want to throw my hat in the ring, and I'm going to bring a lot of people with me. I want to imprison every bald liberal. Okay, that is my pitch. If you're a bald neoliberal, you're going to prison. Okay, and I am joining the Democratic Party. Now, guys, Northern Lion is, number one, not a neoliberal, and two, not an American, so he's safe. Okay. In other words, for example, now, if you're a bald liberal, you might go, but Mike, that's not fair. You're targeting me because of my intrinsic characteristics. Well, see, Hutch had no problem saying he would be happy to ally with segregationists. My God, he's dumb as fuck. Holy dumb and evil. Holy fuck, is he stupid?
Like, I'm against segregation.
Okay, and
all right. Yeah. So that's a difference of opinion here, right? Like I'm against segregationists, no matter what decade it is.
well, do you? I mean, I don't want to get hung up too much. We can move on to the next topic. But like, do you think that Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes.
Okay. And so,
Hutch, let me clear it up, right? Because Hutch, the reason you would say yes.
But go ahead.
Okay, but tell me if I'm wrong, Hutch. The reason you would ever say yes to a pro-segregationist Democrat is because what's on the other side is now the right has moved so far, even past segregation of, yeah, we're doing segregation and a lot more worse stuff, right? Not right now.
By the way, look at how brainless these white liberals are. Do you understand why Malcolm X said these people are fucking snakes? Do you understand why? Like, look at these pathetic fucking liberals. Look at these fucking losers. And they have to do four white liberals in a room. Look at these fucking rats. Do you think we need any of these guys at our party? Like, honestly, do you think they're bringing anyone to the party? They're not bringing one person to the party. They're just what they're trying to do. And it's amazing because it's been 8 years. How long are you guys going to try this? They're trying to get the attention of the mainstream Democratic Party. This is their calculation. Me and Hassan, we support real ideological change, and the Democratic Party establishment sees how popular we are, and they're going to pick them to elevate with all their $1 billion donor money. They're going to elevate these fucking losers, and they're going to counter us, or at least have a job. I don't know. Because they certainly aren't making a lot of money from donations, that's for sure. They're not making a lot of money. Mike, Asmon has between 7,000 to 10,000 active subs. You need to beat him. That would be so funny. I have 9,100 right now. And he runs wait, what? Asmongold runs ads? Have you guys been reporting his stream for being a political content? You should be reporting the stream for doing political content. What the fuck? If it's not tagged, first of all, there's really no ads if you have politics, number one. And number two, if he's not tagged, then you should be reporting it. Mike, title change? Oh, okay, sorry. Let me do my title. This is really funny. I can't believe he hasn't blocked Sean to Black yet. He keeps getting fucking owned. How many times does Hutch need to get owned?
Everything the same, but you would welcome a segregationist Democrat?
Say that question again. I'm not
right now, every policy on the right remains the same. I do think this is like we're fascist, treading into fascism, but they haven't said they're going to bring back segregation yet. They're teasing the idea of miscegenation, revisiting that.
But we're talking about fascism, right? Like when we talk about fascism, we should get into the specifics, right? What does that actually look like?
Right. But if the Democrats are pro-segregationists, that's worse than the current right-wing party.
You're saying that if we had, like, for example, like thankfully there are no emerging segregationist Democrats. I'm happy to entertain your hypothetical, but even if we were to do this hypothetical, ridiculous. Like you're saying that, like, let's say like one or two like segregationist Democrats emerge and all of a sudden they were competitive in like fucking Nebraska or Missouri. You're saying that us adding that to like get a Senate majority would be worse than the MAGA movement right now? in terms of like
I
what
think it would be. I think it would make the. So if I believed empirically it would help stop Trump, I would encourage you to vote for them. But we just have a different thought process.
Okay, here's the thing, and this is a very important point. One, it wouldn't. Like, this is the problem that makes these guys brain dead, is we already know it doesn't work. In fact, what it would do is it would demotivate black Democrats all over the country to not be involved in the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party would be standing next to these segregationists who are calling them inferior, and they wouldn't. And so then a bunch of places that used to be safe blue would now be competitive to the Republicans, because you would demoralize your base so badly that they wouldn't show up and you would start losing. That's the problem with these dumb fucking ideas, is when they campaigned with Bill Clinton in Michigan, it didn't move a bunch of moderate Republicans to vote for Kamala Harris. Do you understand that? What it did do is demotivate Arab voters and Muslim voters and their sympathizers, progressives in Michigan, to not show the fuck up. And so they lost Michigan. And this is what Donald Trump seems to understand. In 2021, it's not 1969 anymore. It's not 1995 anymore. We don't have a bunch of parties that are ideologically incoherent, and you have a bunch of local races, and you're bundling together pork barrel spending, and everybody's a friend, and they're all in the liberal consensus, the New Deal liberal consensus. That's shattered, and it's been shattered for decades at this point. See, Hutch and Pisco and I'm Really Important and the soy pill, they're nostalgic for a politics that was not even around since they've been adults. They're stupid, and they advocate for stupid bullshit. If you want us to win, look at Mexico, which is a country bordering the United States, very culturally similar to the United States. They had a progressive populist party of the left who won, and then enacted a bunch of policies to raise the standard of living of working class Mexicans, and they're very popular, even with a ton of pressure from the United States. Well, you know the advantage of being a populist left-winger in the United States? There's no United States to interfere in your fucking domestic affairs. Does anyone take soy pill seriously? No, these are all Destiny cucks. These are all the former Destiny orbiter cucks. Fucking losers, dude.
That's on the empirics. So the empirics are that I think soy pill is convinced, allowing segregationists into the Democratic Party would like hurt mid to long-term results in the brand of the Democrats, such that it would worsen our chances to.
I mean, do you guys understand that like black civil rights leaders, when they were, deciding who they wanted to endorse when FDR was running, they endorsed him even though he opposed an anti-lynching legislation, and even though a third of the
see the thing is though, FDR was significantly advancing the rights of black people. For example, he had like a advisory group for black Americans. His wife was anti-segregation. His vice president was anti-segregation. It was very clear that in the context of that era, since we're going back in time and you're stupid, that FDR was a radical progressive on racial issues. Duh, dumb fuck. Now, the country wasn't there yet, but he was standing to the left of the country on that. Is Kamala Harris standing to the left of the country on immigration? No. Or any of these other issues? Now, I have my criticisms of FDR with modern sensibilities. It was 100 years ago. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, moron.
Democratic caucus were segregationists and Dixiecrats. Because
there were some segregationists and Dixiecrats. There were. Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely there were. But there were also very progressive people. Holy fucking shit. This is so funny. This is why, like, the pop history that you get from Twitter is rotting your brain. You guys need to be smarter than the I know you guys have seen arguments on Twitter about how FDR supported various, racist policies, and that's true. But it's lacking reality and historical context of the, and it makes you dumber. Because people like Hutch are telling you, see, FDR was racist, so we need to support racists now. That's not true. And in fact, in 1948, when Wallace ran, he was taken off of FDR's ticket in 1944. FDR's vice president, during most of World War II. And when FDR was really sick, right-wing Hutch-allied liberals put in one of the worst presidents and leaders of the Democratic Party, and probably, I would say, the creator of the calamity that we all live in today really goes back to Harry Truman. Harry Truman is really the guy that midwifed the next American Red Scare. And when Henry Wallace ran for president in 1948, he ran on an explicitly anti-Jim Crow ticket. Oh, fuck, these people are dumb as hell.
Because their concern was fascism was rising. And yet, hold on. And yet we have a conversation these days about like Donald Trump is a fascist threat. And yet, like, you propose.
That's just dumber than fucking dirt. And honestly, like, I think that, and I mean this completely, I do think that if you tell a black man that you would vote for a segregationist and they take a swing at you and they flatten your face, that's actually legit. Like that, I don't think that should be a crime. And the reason why that shouldn't be a crime is you're advocating for using the state to oppress them. And so that immediately means you are advocating for their an attack on their person. So if they decide to commit self-defense by flattening your face, no jury could convict you. Who are these people? Exactly. All right. Welcome on in, everybody. This was Roosevelt Was Racist as a result of numerous papers from the Cato Institute, a Koch brothers think tank. Yes, I know. I've been saying that for a long time. The whole FDR is racist is a libertarian psyop to get rid of the New Deal. And it's not that FDR, there is things about FDR's legacy that are bad, and they are based on the fact that the country was extremely fucking racist at the time, and they represented the progressive wing. It's sort of like saying that Abraham Lincoln was a racist. And it's like, yeah, that's true. He had a lot of policies. You know, his abolitionism policies in 1860 campaign were gradual abolition. They were containing the spread of slavery. They were quite moderate. He was a moderate abolitionist. But through the course of history, as those policies changed, and what he ended up actually enacting was progressive in the scope of history, meaning abolishing chattel slavery, passing the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendments, right? Like, we get it. And we can look back and go, that was a progressive administration in the context of the moment, even though now we can look back and say they fell short because of X, Y, and Z thing. That's the same way you should be looking at FDR. You are allowed to see that something in the context of its time was progressive while also understanding the context in which it was in and where it falls short, so that when we get another attempt at making progressive change, we can go and say, let's not compromise on X, Y, and Z because we now have a different context. Hutch is saying all that so he could say, no, we shouldn't be in a progressive era. He's pointing at the flaws in the New Deal so that we embrace the flaws of today. That's the point of that. He doesn't say FDR is racist, therefore we need to be more progressive than FDR. He's saying FDR is racist, so we need to be less progressive now. Is that the lesson of the New Deal? The lesson of the New Deal is to aim small? That's the lesson that you get? I would say you're economically and historically illiterate. Critics of the Americans who are socialists often point to racist statements made by Victor Berger. A close examination of his writings shows his views changed dramatically. Yes, he wrote dumb racist shit during the progressive era, but later he became an anti-racist. And when people take shit out of context to like bring up his older writings that are wrong and that he refuted later, they're trying to lie to you about who the man was to discredit a current movement. And that should tell you something about the people that are opposed to the current movement. You can tell when the Devs start calling for bipartisanship, we know for a fact they aren't ready to fight. That's being, I mean, can you imagine looking at today and going, you know, the lesson is we need to cave to the Republicans more. We need to be Republican light more. That's going to win. Like, did you see the dollar crash last night? Oh my God, it's down another % today already. I keep saying, man, I need to buy euros, and then I don't do it, and then the dollar crashes. Cool.
And the world is now pulling the rug out from under the U.S. The dollar is going to collapse. The dollar is going to be replaced by gold. Central banks are buying gold to back up their currencies. They're getting rid of dollars. They're getting rid of treasuries. We are headed for an economic crisis, again, that will make the 2008 financial crisis look like a Sunday school picnic. The biggest difference between the crisis that we're about to have and the one we had back then is this one is all in America. It's not going to be exported to the rest of the world. It's not a global financial crisis.
Well, unfortunately, that's not true because the United States is a consumer engine of the rest of the world. So if the U.S. crashes too hard, it's going to damage the economies of the rest of the world as well. And it's going to ruin the animal spirits. Peter Schiff is a weirdo, like Austrian guy. But I mean, the prices are crazy. And I am concerned. I'm not going to lie. I think you should be concerned.
It's an American financial crisis, and the world is now pulling.
I mean, before that was it was a bad opinion because it wasn't aware of geopolitical realities. But now Donald Trump is engineering the geopolitical realities where everybody's like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be relying on the United States. There's also a Japanese bond sell-off going on. They put a fascist in power. Now they get an economic crisis. Japan is headed for a snap election, and while the governing party is projected to win, it had become clear that all parties favor policies that would significantly expand borrowing. Much of Japan's debt is held domestically by large institutional investors that are accordingly repricing their appetite for long-duration government bonds. The carry trade, borrowing in low-yield yen to invest in U.S. assets, is less attractive at higher yields. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. U.S. is planning to bail out Japan. I mean, it's only going to put more stress on our own dollar. Man, we're at 119. Fuck me, man. God damn it. Son of a fucking bitch. Holy shit, the Great British Pound is at 137? It hasn't been there for a long time. All right, I gotta do something today. I think I'm gonna do something today. Holy shit. I need to get out of these. I need to change my savings out of dollars. I don't trust them. Wow. The Swiss franc has never been this strong. Why is the Swiss franc so strong? Wait, even the Canadian dollar is doing well? Okay. Oh my God. The Canadian dollar is strengthening. It hasn't been this good for a while. It's still pretty devalued, to be honest with you. It's still pretty, historically, it's still pretty devalued. So maybe that's a good place to go. I don't know. I don't really think that the Canadian dollar is too exposed to the US. That's the problem. All right, chat. Let's get into the breaking story of the day. They attacked Ilhan Omar late last night at a town hall. Now, I want to say this, chat. If you're at an AOC rally or an Ilhan Omar rally or a Bernie Sanders rally, and you see someone start to like run at one of the people, you need to attack them and absolutely defend the community with everything you've got. And until you make sure they're no longer a threat.
Ilhan Omar at her town hall immediately taken down. Wait, was it my
is rewind turned off? Oh, fuck. God damn it. So fucking annoying. Jesus fucking Christ. I hate this fucking app so fucking much. Twitch does this thing where they like, if they see that you played something that, you know, might have some sort of like DMCA risk, they'll like turn off VODs. You have to turn them back on.
Security team, do you have the video? I want to see if it was my boys live 2 minutes ago.
As it's been said, real justice and accountability starts with full, transparent investigation and legal action against ICE, followed by the abolishment of the agency. ICE cannot be reformed. It cannot be rehabilitated. We must abolish ICE for good. And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign.
I turned it on, but I don't think it'll be available till after the stream. Sorry, chat.
Or face impeachment.
By the way, chat, if somebody squirts liquid on you, you need to get a acid neutralizing agent like baking soda immediately. You should not just think it's water. So if somebody throws like a liquid on you, you should immediately put baking soda on it. What if it's basic? I mean, that's true. I guess it could be a lye-based thing. Then you would probably need vinegar. They said it smelled like vinegar. I'm guessing it was acid and he missed her skin. Well, then you need baking soda. The writing is staying on stage because you tried to rush him. No, she's just a badass.
Fucking asshole. I don't know.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my my God, he sprayed something on her.
One of the problems about the left in general is they're very naive. And I don't say this to be like I'm some sort of badass or something. I'm not a badass. I just know things. And one of the things that concerns me is that people are very unaware of like of the way people attack other people. And it's like it's been going like different types of attacks have been going on for so long. Don't you guys aren't people interested in that? Like it blows my mind how they don't know anything. Always fucking crazy. So I don't like the fact that the left is so naive. It's one of the things that it bothers me quite a bit, actually. The complacency of safety, yeah. And it's not that I want you to be paranoid or anything. It's just you should know how to counter these threats.
I need a napkin to know nothing.
That's crazy. He just came up to her and sprayed her with some. I don't know what it is. What the? What did he yell?
I don't know. Face impeachment.
What does he have? Was it a squirt gun? What was it? I can't tell what it is. I think he said, if you don't resign, this is going to be... What the f... I think it's a syringe. Bro, by the way, Ilhan Omar is crazy. She was literally running towards him to swing, dude. Like, that's crazy. She literally was going in.
She went for the swing. She went for the swing.
Oh my God. It's a syringe, I think. I don't know what it was. Hopefully it's nothing crazy. Oh my God. This is unironically.
Remember,
I know
Give Ilhan a Gundam? I have that shirt somewhere, chat. I have the Give Ilhan a Gundam shirt somewhere. Fuck. I need to find it.
He squirted something at her. We don't know what the substance is, though.
It looks... Pennsylvania. Fuck.
I don't know.
Oh my God. Oh my God, he sprayed something on her.
I need a napkin to know nothing. No, we will continue.
No. Ilhan, you need to go get checked.
She's like trying to continue. She's trying to continue the town hall, and they're like, no, you got to get out of here. He said, she says these fucking assholes are not going to get away with this. He's been arrested, by the way. I assume that... Oh, so she's still going. My queen.
That's whatever it is smells so bad. She needs to go get checked. I don't know
that's what they want. Please don't let them know.
It's not about him, Ilhan.
Is she saying like, no, that's what they want. They want me to feel scared. They want me to stop.
The only thing that I'm concerned about is her having some sort of injury, right? So, and I don't want her to get scarred. And so, you know, obviously she should have a change of clothes, right? Like that's my main thing, because people throw acid on people, and if you don't immediately neutralize it, then it could cause permanent damage. Stills for the better angle of Ilhan going for the kill. That's how you spell that, right, chat? I'm not a weave. I'm not a weave. Weeb. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Explain Gundam for non-weebs. It's like a mech suit that you could fly into space with. There was an acid attack in Savannah recently. The woman has third-degree burns and is badly disfigured. Yeah, see, that's what I'm worried about.
Bro, that's a crazy image, dude. She's continuing to go. I assume it's like skunk spray or something. Hopefully it's just like bacon grease, you know? Hopefully it's something like that and not like a chemical, you know what I mean? Hopefully he's like one of those Islamophobic fucking assholes who's like, oh, this is bacon, something like that, you know? Instead of like piss or something. Cause like it could have been something so, it could have been so much worse.
Everybody settle down. I'm gonna finish my remarks. It is important for me to continue to lead my Democratic colleagues in demanding her resignation.
God damn.
What a badass.
That's terrifying.
She's so fucking cool. She's so fucking cool. Honestly, if I'm a prominent position like hers and I get attacked like that on live TV, to let the world see exactly what her side wants to do. No more shielding people for this bullshit. I mean, I don't know if you guys, if it's me, I beat their fucking ass myself. Like, I don't know about you, but if somebody attacks me, I'm beating their fucking, like, my security and I are fucking stomping them. Like, I'm not, like, if somebody tries to roll up on me and I'm at an event, we're fucking beating their ass. We're jumping them. We are absolutely jumping the fuck. In self-defense, obviously. I would never want you to go attack someone. She had the right idea. Security got him first. Yeah, security got him first, obviously. So she didn't really have the time. I would have kicked the motherfucker while he was down. You know, I don't know about you guys. While he was getting wrapped up, I would be trying to kick him in the face.
Like, he could have had a gun, man, and it would have been over, you know? And I think the goal there was to basically say, like, you know, next time it'll be a gun. Like, if you don't resign, next time it'll be a gun type shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
They probably need to go past metal detectors for this kind of things. If something like that were to go undetected, who's to say someone won't Shinzo Abe, an actual good intentioned politician? I mean, dude,
don't say Shinzo Abe don't say Shinzo Abe, a good intentioned politician. There's been a lot of politicians that are good that have been killed. So you don't need to talk about Shinzo Abe.
Let's be real. This is like, it's psychotic, but it's not unexpected, right? I mean, this is something that Donald Trump has been positioning for quite a while, right? Donald Trump has put Ilhan Omar in the crosshairs for years now. It was only a matter of time until someone tried to do this. I don't know what else to say. This is part of the reason why I was very critical of other content creators like Sex Pest, and he talking about like inviting this kind of thing towards other content creators, myself included. Like, when you urge people to go and you know, agitate, when you urge people to go and like take matters in their own hands, eventually someone is going to do that. And yeah, meanwhile, while this was happening, here's Donald Trump in Iowa.
Legally, but they have to show that they can love our country, not hate our country. They have to.
This is the intended outcome of that kind of racialized animosity, that dehumanization.
They're not going to blow up our shopping centers, blow up our farms, kill people. They're coming in legally, but they cannot come in unless they come in legally into our country, and we're letting some great people come in. They have to show that they can love our country, not like Ilhan Omar. Did you see that wise guy? You know, she's always talking about the Constitution provides me with the following. You know, the Constitution, she comes from a country that's a disaster. It's considered, I think, the worst. It's not even a country, okay? It barely has a government. I don't think it does. They're good at one thing, pirates. But they don't do that anymore. You know why? Because they get the same treatment from us as the drug dealers get. Boom, boom, boom.
Is this not inciting violence, aka domestic terrorism? Yes, 100%. This is the New York Times coverage on a Minneapolis live update. Trump faults Petty for carrying gun, but says he wants honest inquiry. During a town hall with Representative Ilhan Omar in Minneapolis, a man rushed to the lectern and appeared to spray her with a strong-smelling liquid before he was tackled by security. The man was handcuffed and removed. Omar, visibly shaken, continued speaking after a brief pause. After a man sprayed Representative Omar with a strong-smelling substance, she asked for a napkin and insisted that she would continue speaking at the town hall. Here's the reality that people like this ugly man don't understand, she told the crowd. We are Minnesota strong. After she finished her prepared remarks, she said of the attack, I learned at a young age that you don't give in to threats. Jesus Christ. Insane, dude. She's a real one. The man who sprayed Representative Ilhan Omar with an unknown substance during the town hall was seated directly in front of the podium in the front row. Immediately before the encounter, Omar said, we must abolish ICE and DHS Secretary Christiano must resign or face impeachment. That kind of attack scares the hell out of me as a chemist. Some substances like methyl mercury can kill you in weeks or months later with a few drops on the skin. The reason why it hasn't hit
I mean, there's so many different, you wouldn't want to handle methyl mercury because it would probably kill you. But yes, I'm really more concerned with strong acids. You know, that's what the dummies do. That's like the dummy move. Is because people don't recognize, you know, liquids as a threat. So that's the thing that goes to my mind immediately is strong acids.
In news yet is because we just watched it happen in real time. Also, Ilhan Omar is not very well liked by a lot of these mainstream media outlets, so they might not cover it like as much. They might just briefly.
Yeah. Under Biden administration, Justice Department began examining Ilhan Omar's finances. The inquiry initiated by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington appears to have stalled for lack of evidence. Yes, because Biden was a Zionist. And so he was trying to destroy everybody who was not a Zionist. Because he's a fascist too. The Justice Department under the Biden administration opened an investigation and represents Ilhan Omar, Democrat of Minnesota. Why is this being reported, by the way? If there's no evidence, why did you make it a front page article? Very interesting. Because they're trying to put the fact of the investigation into the news. The inquiry initiated by U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington Department's Public Integrity Unit in June of that year appears to have stalled due to lack of evidence. It was part of a rambling statement of announcing a shakeup of the team overseeing immigration raids in Miss Omar's Minneapolis district that misspelled her name. The DOJ and Congress are looking at Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who left Somalia with nothing and is now reportedly worth more than $44 million, he wrote. Time will tell all. Sorry, Trump, your support is collapsing and you're panicking, she wrote on social media on Monday. Right on cue, you're deflecting from your failures with lies and conspiracy theories about me. Years of investigations have found nothing. Ugly personal attacks against Ms. Omar have been a staple of Mr. Trump's speeches since her election to Congress in 2018, when she and Representative Rashida Tlaib, Democrat of Michigan, made history as the first 2 Muslim women elected to Congress. By the way, chat, notice that they weren't liberals. Notice that they weren't liberals. Notice that it was the left, the damn white leftists elected the first and Muslim women to Congress. And by the way, her district is majority white. Ms. Omar's sharp criticism of Israel, her repetition of anti-Semitic tropes, and her comparison of U.S. actions to those of Hamas have elicited bipartisan criticism. My God, dude. Listen to this fucking garbage hit piece. But few people have demonized her more than Mr. Trump, who has veered into racist and xenophobic vitriol in the view of Ms. Omar and other critics of the president. No evidence has been produced showing that Ms. Omar was connected to the fraud scheme. A spokeswoman for Ms. Omar said her office had received no official inquiries from the Oversight Committee or the Justice Department. I think we're in for a lot of pain as Americans during this presidency, she said in an interview with the New York Times in December. There is a desire to purify the country from any brown and black people. A lot of their policies and rhetoric seems to be rooted in white supremacy. Notice that they don't quote her till the fucking last sentence of the article, because I don't know if you know this, chat, but it's rare for people to read all of things or listen to everything. They don't usually do that. Mike, please let chat know if anything like that happens, you need to get the fuck out of there immediately. I mean, yeah, obviously. But I also don't think that panicking in the face of attacks is a good idea. I do think that if she felt like there was no threat, she should continue to stand in their face and go, you're cowards, not us.
They might just cover it briefly. That's crazy, man. Ilhan Omar sprayed with unknown substance. Unfortunately, the substance wasn't some sort of deportation potion. As Omar is still speaking at the podium, darn. Oh my God. Oh, these people are such monsters, man. Oh my God. We have to prosecute all of them. Remember, this is the state where that psychopathic private security guy who's like a far right Christian evangelical pastor went and killed a bunch of state congresspersons.
It's happened in her state. She's joined a chorus of Democrats who have said,
"Oh, it was a syringe,
they want
yeah.
ICE abolished." She's on the further left, right, of the Democratic coalition.
That's my goat right there on top of him. People are missing it. This is a successful attack. Yeah, technically it's true. The only reason why this wasn't a successful attack is because he just didn't have a gun on him.
His face looks pretty unmarked.
It's basically a way to signal.
Here's the thing. If anybody attacks a leftist, they should be stomped out until they're no longer a threat. Okay, I don't want you to think that I'm saying that we should do retribution or anything. That's illegal. Obviously, until they're no longer a threat. But until they're no longer a threat, they should be absolutely stomped out, preferably on the face as much as you can. How do we balance not letting fascists get PR with self-preservation, i.e. continue speaking versus remove irritant and immediately go to the hospital? I mean, there's no... I'm going to explain something else. There's no way to be in politics safely. It is a threat. It's a risk that you're going to... Honestly, being famous at all is dangerous.
Like, next time we will get you. MSNBC's covering Ilhan now.
Joining me now, MS Now senior political analyst Alex Wagner, also the host of
so
Runaway
funny.
Country podcast. That's a very, very scary moment that we just saw in that.
Two Hassanabi heads in fucking Minneapolis. Oh, that's so funny. They're freezing.
It's just something, given everything that's happened over the last few weeks.
Given where we're standing.
Juxtaposition. Like that moment of someone coming at.
Yeah, I think it's at a moment where people, especially on the outside of Minneapolis, are trying to calibrate how they feel about the moment, right? On one level, the incredible citizen resistance to ICE and the tactics of MAGA world in terms of marginalizing and terrorizing and punishing black and brown people in this country, that has been extraordinary. And it has resulted
Her eyelashes
in
are frozen.
gains, like the president of the United States maybe vaguely acknowledging that it's not good to be doing this.
We're going to de-escalate a little bit.
Whatever that, but the truth is the situation on the ground remains dire.
Yeah.
That's an elected representative from this state being accosted at best, maybe
just because they know who you are doesn't make them Hassan Abi has some gatekeeping. No, Chris Hayes is literally a Hassan Abi
is
head.
the order of the day. You know,
and I've been on her podcast
in people's
as well.
Hearts and minds is very real, and it is not abating anytime soon, especially when you see stuff like that.
I think the reason that people have been looking to this place with a lot of hope is because whatever else is happening, the White House is on tilt.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they are on tilt.
Totally.
Like, fully today.
Staged, so staged. Donald Trump is GOAT, is so staged, didn't hit face, and she knew it wasn't dangerous. Obviously staged. The most staged thing this decade, definitely staged. It's not bait, it's just obviously staged. You know, totally, dude. The reason why you have to feel like it's staged is because you recognize how fucked up it is, right? Allahu Akbar. Okay, got it. I mean, I think God is great too, brother. True. I'm glad that you have, I guess, in your mind, converted to.
Sorry it's out of topic, but if you play again at Arc Raider, try the bird event. You can make a lot of money. I haven't been playing Arc Raiders for a couple weeks, to be honest with you, chat. I haven't played much in a couple weeks. I think the game is really good, but the problem with the game in general is I don't like the trial system. I think it sucks. And they don't have the PvE PvP balance correct, and they don't have the weapon rarity balance correct. So like, what I mean by that is, like, I could easily go and kill the queen, but why? There's no reason to, because the legendary weapons are not good enough. And it's like, I personally like the Bobcat. The cost of an upgraded Bobcat with blue attachments is so much more than a, you know, Stitcher with green attachments, and the value and the like delta between the two in a fight is not that big. And the same thing with like shields, right? Like, obviously the medium shield is good. Everything kind of flows from that, where it's like they haven't constructed enough of a differentiation between them. And while I like the free kits in the beginning, I feel like they should be restricted. I feel like you should be able to use a free kit unless the value of your stash is below like 150K, or they should be time gated or something, because like it creates this environment where you are incentivizing people to spam free kits and then engage in PvP at a very obnoxious style of PvP, which is just kind of rushing the third party. And there's no sense of risk on the side of the free kitter. They're not like risking anything by doing that. So it's the optimal strategy. And the gameplay, it's like it starts to lose the verisimilitude of an extraction shooter, which is supposed to be the sense of like every fight matters. So I think those problems with Arc Raiders, at first they didn't bother me as much, but as I understood the game more and more and more, and I played it more and more, I was like, you know, I'm not incentivized to use my expensive kit. The PvE is largely irrelevant, and the balance of the weapons isn't good. So those, you know, and they haven't released any new content in a while. My local socialist once removes free kits for the poor. So true.
Islam, I guess, but that's not.
Rubio is live on C-SPAN talking about Venezuela. I don't think Rubio is making any decisions, man.
You do it. You say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Abdul Rasulullah, and that's how you become Muslim.
Every video, all of it is having the cumulative effect that it should, which is it is.
Asmongold called you a terrorist. What happened? Did Asmongold go offline or something? Is that why we got the cornballs in here? Dude, look at this fucking asshole. Of course they're gonna say it's fake. This is what the average right winger looks like, dude. This is what you look like. This is all the people in my replies. The face of a real patriot, okay? Little piggy.
He caught the incident as it was happening, and then afterwards, as he was following her out, I grabbed my cell phone, and you'll hear what she says after I ask her how she's doing. Representative Omar, are you okay?
You know, I'm gonna go figure if I am, but I feel okay. I feel that it is important for people, whether they are in elected office or not, to allow these people to intimidate us, to make us not fight for our constituents and for the country we love. And as I said, you know, I've survived war, and I'm definitely going to survive intimidation and whatever these people think they can throw at me, because I'm built that way.
Thank you. Because I'm built
that was your
way.
security. What the hell's going on? Yes, I got the same security team that she has. She wasn't in town when I was there.
And stop her from sending the message that she wants and the message that her constituents have been telling her to send. And she was here, of course, because of the ICE action in Minneapolis. Representative Omar, are you okay?
You know, I'm gonna go figure if I am, but I feel okay. I feel that it is important for people, whether they are in elected office or not, to allow these people to intimidate us, to make us not fight for our constituents and for the country we love. And as I said, you know, I've survived war, and I'm definitely going to survive intimidation and whatever these people think they can throw at me, because I'm built that way.
Representative Omar, are you?
I'm built that way. Hell fucking yeah, dude. I'm just built different. I'm just built different.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were protesting. I didn't know if you were saying don't call on her.
I would like to say that I am very proud of you as our representative, and I am so glad that you are our leader. And I want to ask something on a very personal note. I am an immigrant. I came from the Philippines. I went and got everything that I was supposed to do. And I actually lived through the EDSA revolution. And I felt that if I could make it to the United States, I will be okay. At this moment, we didn't know how it was going to turn out, but we made a pledge, the Filipinos, that we would be there for each other. And I have seen you Minnesotans do the very same thing. And I'm very proud of you, and it is my honor to be with you. I'm asking on a very personal note. Some people, specifically me, some people did not go to their SNAP renewal. Some people didn't renew their medical because I won't be able to go home. And I have my certificate of naturalization, and the interview is supposed to be in person, but I don't know if I can make it back home. So my question is, this is some people, which is specifically me. And I didn't want to go because I'm not well behaved. And I'm not sure who would bail me out for causing good trouble. So is there a way for us to submit papers? Is there a way for us? I know there's protocol, there's regulations where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah.
And I can't outrun them. So I don't know. So if there's a way for us to do interviews, not in person. So I'm just asking. So I would like to have SNAP benefits. I would like to have medical.
Yeah, I hear you.
So that's my question. And I just want to ask, it's not just me, there's several of us.
And you live? Am I your representative?
Yes, you are.
All right, then I know where you live. Okay. They're just wondering if you're in a different area then. So, you know what? I have been in the United States a month short of 30. That is 90% of the amount of time that I've been alive. So I know people talk about me in Somalia. I don't know any home the way I know. And so I do feel a strong sentiment towards immigrants that find home in the United States. And I know that even though I'm a congresswoman, you know, even though I'm a citizen, like I carry my passport with me because I don't want to not be able to provide. And I know that in some cases that hasn't been enough. But to answer your question, is that there are mobile vehicles that you can schedule where they will come and do the interview in a place where you're comfortable to be able to take those. And so check in with your caseworker and let them know how vulnerable you feel. I will also say, you know, again, Minnesotans were just amazing. There's so many mutual aid opportunities where people might be able to help you out in other ways as well. You know, people talk a lot about illegal immigration and criminals. What this enforcement has truly done is frighten actual citizens and documented neighbors. The children that are afraid to go to schools, the mothers and fathers that are afraid to drop them off, you know, the elderly shop owners at Caramel Mall, they're all citizens, but they don't want the trauma of seeing men with heavy machine guns because that is who they escaped to come to the United States. They don't want to go through a checkpoint because that is what they escaped to come to the United States. They don't want a gun drawn on them asking for their identification because that's what they escaped to come to the United States. And so for me, that has been the hardest part to communicate to people because they just don't understand how terrifying it is, one, for just the average person who has never seen this level of weaponization. But it is also severely debilitating and triggering for people who have had machine guns drawn at them at a young age and who thought their only salvation was to find a country like ours, where they never have to worry about that because there's a constitution, it's known for its liberty and freedoms. And so it's truly heartbreaking, this moment we find ourselves in. But if we know anything about U.S. history, is that everything is temporary. And we will find our way out of this. So thank you all.
And I think that's actually the lesson. You know, what you'll find is the only people that want you to quit are the disorganized people. And I never want you to allow your personal feelings of despair or depression dictate your politics. I'm sorry, that's just too narcissistic for me. And I find it obnoxious, to be honest with you. And I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. When somebody comes to me and goes, Mike, I'm just so depressed about the state of the world and I just want to give up, I look down on you. I really do. I'm just like, wow, life must be so tough. I find it contemptible. Because oftentimes when I talk to these people, they aren't saying, I've just been working my ass off, you know, with DSA. I've been going to ICE patrols and I've been going to picket lines and I've been knocking on my neighbors' doors and I've been running for office and I have been, you know, organizing mutual aid. There are people that are sitting on their fat fucking ass doing nothing. And then they come and tell me how depressed they are. I don't know. Have you tried doing something? CNBC interview. Rich people leaving ICE.
I am downtown at City Hall this morning, and joining me right now in an exclusive interview is New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. We've wanted to talk to you for a very long time about so many different issues going on with the city, but I know that you've been working on the budget, and that is one of your first priorities, and so let's go there.
Absolutely.
Because I know that this morning, I believe, you're planning to make some announcements about the budget.
Yes. Well, first, I want to say it's a real pleasure to be on.
Thank you.
And today, you're right. We're going to be sharing the truth with New Yorkers that has sadly been hidden from them for far too long, which is that the prior mayoral administration has left us with a $12 billion fiscal deficit. And this is at a scale that's actually greater than what we saw here in New York City during the Great Recession. And it's something that is attributable to gross fiscal mismanagement, to a refusal to actually budget honestly and be direct with New Yorkers. And that's what we're going to actually do today.
Okay, so the big question is, assuming that that is the hole, how do you fix the hole?
I think the first way is you actually be honest about it. And the reason that that's important is what we saw in the last year from the mayoral administration was there was a recognition about the scale of this crisis, but instead of actually being direct with New Yorkers, it was trying to shift those costs out of view. We had cash assistance, for example, where we were budgeting only for about 50% of its cost on the books, keeping about 50% of its cost off the books. The second thing is about actually making the case for how we fix structural imbalances in this city. We're talking about a $12 billion deficit that is a result of not just the fiscal mismanagement, but also the decades-long effort of then Governor Cuomo to shift costs from the state to the city. So we need to change our relationship to the state. We also need to change our relationship to the wealthiest residents and most profitable corporations here in New York City.
So let's speak to that, because that's something you run on, raising taxes on the wealthy in New York. How much?
I know that's very popular on this program.
When you look, though, at the budget and this hole you're talking about, how much do you look at this hole and say, I can solve this because there are things in here that I can cut, there's zombie programs, other things? And how much do you think it is absolutely necessary for you to raise taxes on the wealthiest?
I think the scale of this crisis is one where we have to pursue all of these things. I have to show that this city government is not just serious about public goods, but also public excellence and public efficiency. And so we have to make sure every dollar that's being spent is actually being spent in a worthwhile way. I'll give you an example. The previous administration launched an AI chatbot that is basically unusable, cost the city close to $500,000, right? That's the kind of money that is going down the drain. At the same time, $12 billion of a fiscal deficit requires the kinds of increased revenue on the top 1% of New Yorkers who make $1 million a year or more, increasing their taxes by 2%. It also means that we look at the relationship between the city and the state, where New York City is the economic engine of the state, of the country. And yet, while we contribute 54.5% of the state's revenue, we only receive 40.5% in return. And if we had actually bridged that gap over the Cuomo years, we'd be talking about receiving an $8 billion additional every single year.
Do you go after that money first, or do you go after the additional tax dollars on the wealthiest New Yorkers first?
I think as a New Yorker, you always have to do all of the above. And so we have to both increase taxes on the wealthiest, we have to also change the relationship with the state, and we have to pursue these kinds of savings and efficiencies here in our city.
Okay, speak to this, because...
And by the way, chat, that is real. Like, a lot of people hear this and they go like, oh no, that can't be true. That's a free lunch. Economically, there is no such thing as a free lunch. And the answer is, have you ever been in a centrist Democrat administration? They don't give a shit about anything. They don't hire competent people. They don't investigate shit. They're handing out contracts to their friends. They're rigging bids. There's so much endemic corruption in the Democratic Party, especially in big cities, that I have no doubt, honestly, I'm worried he might get shot. If he actually goes through with this, the efficiency gains that you can make by just hiring competent people and fixing the bid system is going to be literally billions.
One of the biggest issues about taxing the wealthiest New Yorkers is the possibility that they leave New York. So the top 1% of New Yorkers pay somewhere between 40 and 48% of the total revenue for New York City taxes. If a couple hundred of them are mobile and have a private plane and can live in Florida and come here, 150 days a year, that's a problem. What do you do about that?
I think you get back to first the facts, because capital flight is always spoken about whenever we talk about the potential of increasing taxes on the wealthy. What we've seen is that since 2021, when New York State increased taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers, the number of millionaires actually increased in this state. And so it has to be to get back to the facts. The second thing also has to be, we are increasing revenue also to be able to increase quality of service, right? We're sitting here right now in one of the coldest stretches in New York City weather history. One of the reasons why the city could start to get back on its feet was because we had a sanitation department that was staffed by thousands of people, to the extent that we could have 2,500 workers on every 12-hour shift. That's only possible when you're actually investing in public service.
You talk about more millionaires in New York City, and that's true. But at the very tip of the spear, I'm talking maybe even the billionaires, their ability to be mobile seems higher. And so the question is, you look at a state like New Jersey. David Tepper was a hedge fund manager in New Jersey who left the state. All of a sudden, they lost something like $140 million in revenue annually. And so the question is, if you lose a couple of those people, is that in your mind okay? Is that a cost of doing business? Or is that a problem? And what do you do about that?
Well, I think I have to prove that this increased revenue leads to an increased quality of life. And frankly, we also have to get through the kind of fear-mongering that typically takes place in this. The other day, I was speaking to a New Yorker who self-identified themselves as someone who would be taxed by our proposals. They said, I've heard that you're going to tax millionaires. Is that true? I said, yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to increase personal income taxes by 2%. They said, I'm going to leave, like you're saying. I said, I don't think you will. They said, why? I said, because it's a 2% increase. We're talking about $20,000 on an income of $1 million. They said, that's actually much less than I thought it would be. I wouldn't actually be making a fight.
What? 2%? You moved the decimal twice and then times 2. As I've said before, chat, rich people aren't smart. They hire the smart people to do their shit. That's what being rich is. When I'm rich, I don't now know how to cure cancer. I just go hire the best cancer doctor I can find, and he treats my cancer. And then I pay him money. That's what being rich is. When I want a mansion, I don't design the mansion. I go hire an architect and he designs it for me. That's what I pay the money for. So I don't build the mansion. I don't design the mansion. I just live in the mansion. That's what being rich is. Rich people are stupid.
Financial decision on the basis of that kind of an increase.
I've got a philosophical question for you.
Come on, hit me.
If you look at the top marginal tax rate for somebody who lives in New York City, this is somebody at the tip of the tip right now, you could be paying somewhere around 52, 53%. Is there an invisible line in your mind where you say actually that the average New Yorker, not even average New Yorker, but the wealthy New Yorker says, no mas, this is just, there's a number, I'm happy to give 50% of my income over annually, but after this, it's just too much.
I really think the invisible line comes from whether working people can afford to live in the city. And what I mean by that is, for all of the talk about capital flight, the potential of it, we lose sight of the fact that there is an exodus of people from the city. It's working people, right? We're talking about so many who are leaving because of housing costs, childcare costs. And also, we tend to talk about this as if it's a conversation about a collective versus capital. But even when I sit down with business leaders, I ask them, what are some of your greatest retention issues? They'll tell me childcare. They'll tell me that when their business invests in childcare in the business setting, they see their retention rates increase. And part of the reason they have to invest is because the city has refused to acknowledge its own responsibility in this.
Well, I think the question is, can you do it without increasing taxes? I mean, de Blasio ran on increasing wealth taxes and got pre-K through without an additional tax rate.
I think that we've shown that we are advancing universal child care. We're doing it with existing state revenue, and that was on day 8 of our administration. However, we're also inheriting the largest fiscal crisis that we've seen since the Great Recession. And I think that here in the most expensive city in the United States of America, also the wealthiest city, we have 1 in 4 people living in poverty. Right. And I think the last point I'd make, kind of more at the philosophical level as well, is that everyone benefits from a stronger city. And what I mean by that is that though you may not think that the programs we're speaking about might directly benefit you, the benefit it has to the strength of this society is one that is immeasurable, just in terms of peace of mind and
I don't think people disagree with that. Business leaders don't disagree with that. I think the question is, how do you make this a super attractive place to do business? And so I wanted to ask you about this, which is, part of the issue is about people talk about the flight, the exodus. The other piece is the incentive to come to the city, to start a new business in the city. JP Morgan just built a big building on Park Avenue. It's very hard for them to go, right? They're locked in place. But for a lot of their other business, for example, they're moving to Texas, they're moving to Florida. And so the thought isn't necessarily, do they leave, so much as do they come?
And I think that, to me, is the health and vitality of the city is not by protecting what it has, but continuing to grow. And for too long in our politics, there's been this kind of reverse New York exceptionalism, where we say things that worked elsewhere could never work here. We're in New York. We're always going to be great. We have to earn that greatness every day. And so part of my point here is that I want us to be delivering the best public services this country has ever seen. I want us to have a public transit system that is so good.
Also, can you imagine comparing Austin to New York City? Imagine comparing Austin, Texas to New York City. I legitimately, I would laugh in their face. I'd be like, you're comparing Austin, Texas to New York City? Now, I'm not trying to be insulting, but have you been to Austin, Texas? Like, have you been to Austin, Texas? It's like comparing a Major League Baseball player to someone in Little League. And going, well, he's a Little League All-Star. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
That no matter how much money's in your pocket, you say, quickest, best, easiest way to get around, I'm gonna get on the train, I'm gonna ride the bus. That is something that can be transformative. It's only possible, however, if we reckon with these structural issues.
Let me ask you about this. President Trump says that he is worried about an exodus as well. He told a radio show this week, I got along very well with him, that's you, says you have a very good personality, by the way. I want to see New York be successful, and if he could make it successful, make it much more successful, because now it's heading in the wrong direction, losing people. You saw, I said, the New York Stock Exchange, having a major stock exchange built in Dallas, is not a good thing. How do you react to that?
Well, look, I think the president and I had a productive meeting at the Oval Office. And after that meeting, he said, when New York does better, he's happier. I think that for everything that we have firm and fundamental disagreements about, we are also two New Yorkers who care deeply about this city. And I would agree that this is a city that has become so expensive that so many are being pushed out of it. And I think even when we talk about the cost of childcare, it's $25,000 a year, and that's considered a good deal in New York City. You could be earning $200,000-$300,000 a year. That cost could still push you out of the city. And so I do think we need to take this affordability crisis seriously. I also think we have to pierce through the fiction and get to the fact of what's actually happening.
We're talking a lot about wealth taxes. We're not really talking about corporate taxes, which actually also have a big impact, not just on big corporations, even though they're called corporate taxes, but on small businesses and bodegas and the like. And the question I have for you is, I know you want to raise corporate taxes and you want to make that, what you say is similar to New Jersey. But at the same time, by default, that is going to have a demonstrable impact on those corporations to employ people.
So the corporate tax that I've been speaking about is the highest echelon of profitability. We're not talking about the bodega where you're getting your egg and cheese and jalapeno on a roll. We're talking about corporations that are making an immense amount of profit. And what this is about is redirecting to ensure that that profit is also something that helps the city remain strong, that helps the city also get back on a firm financial footing. Because right now what we're seeing is there's an immense amount of money being made in the city, but that prosperity is not reaching enough New Yorkers' lives.
One of the big issues nationally is the question of ICE, what we've all seen.
I mean, it's so, I mean, like, look at these guys, right? Like, these CNBC guys were so arrogantly shit-talking him on their shows for months and months and months, right? They were arrogantly shit-talking him and being like, oh, he can't win. He's so crazy. He's got terrible policies. It's going to destroy New York. Now they get a chance to interview him, and they're a fucking pussy cat. They can't do anything. They can't say shit. They're sitting there getting dunked on.
Happened in Minneapolis, but there's a big question about whether ICE is going to come to New York. And I'm curious about what kind of conversations you've been having with the president or the administration about that possibility and how you think you would be reacting to this.
I said to the president directly that these ICE raids are cruel and inhumane and that they do nothing to actually serve the interests of public safety, and that public safety is of paramount importance to us. It's the cornerstone of an affordability agenda, but to use it as a justification to pull people out of their cars, out of their homes, out of their lives, it is completely contradictory to what New Yorkers are seeing and what Americans are seeing. And I think what we've seen is that there is a fear that has gripped hold of so many. And this is a fear that is without respect to anyone's documentation. A friend of mine the other day told me that if ICE was to come here at the kind of presence that we're seeing elsewhere, they wouldn't feel comfortable with their mother, a U.S. citizen, leaving the house because they wouldn't know if she would be profiled. That's how people are living.
Do you think ICE is coming to New York City?
We're going to do everything in our power to ensure that what we see elsewhere, we keep making the case directly to the president, directly to New Yorkers, to Americans, that these kinds of actions, they are the actions of a reckless agency that is operating with impunity, one that deserves to be abolished, frankly, and that they do nothing to actually serve public interest. The other thing I'd say is you have to prepare in advance. In the same way that with this snowstorm, the reason we're able to actually respond to it on the day of the storm is not because sanitation's there on the morning of, it's because Friday morning they've brined all the highways and major roadways. Similarly, if we're talking about the prospect of ICE coming here, we have to ensure New Yorkers actually know their rights. New Yorkers know what it means to be a sanctuary city, that we have a law department that's ready to use the courts as one form of the battleground. That's what we're also preparing for.
Now that you're the mayor, how has your relationship changed with the business community? And how do you feel about billionaires today who are now your constituents who you represent? Because you've talked about them in ways that, frankly, a lot of them don't like. And I'm curious if you think that being in the seat today changes your view in any way or changes your disposition about how to approach this.
Well, I think being the mayor of this city is to be the mayor of all 8.5 million people of this city. And I've made very clear to members of the business community that my definition of success is not that anyone leaves this city. It's not that there's some kind of a win in a narrative war. It's that everyone stays and that we have more room for others to join as well. And I think there was this moment I was speaking with a real estate leader, and he was kind of portioning out where the profits of his company come from. He pointed back to his office. He said, about 20% of what we make comes from what we do in the office. And then he pointed outside the window and he said, and about 40% comes from what you do out there. So he said, whether I like you or not, our fates are intertwined. And I think no matter the scale of policy disagreement, what brings us together is a love of this city. That's what we're going to pursue with these policies.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for being on the broadcast.
Real pleasure.
I hope we get to continue this conversation. Lots of big questions about capitalism and socialism and all sorts of things.
Never heard about any of that.
So we'll do that more. But thank you this morning. Appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
I'm going to...
And by the way, this is how the ideological reality of American politics is that these guys like and this guy Aaron Sorkin is that his name? Aaron Sorkin. He's a nepo baby. And the thing about these nepo babies and these guys is like, obviously when you study history, you look back on Stalin or you look back on Mao and you're like, wow, they killed a lot of people. And then when you read history, you're like, wow, they didn't kill enough people. You're like, wow, I can't believe they were so restrained. That's crazy. Like they went through a lot of shit. And if that had happened to me, I would have been blasting way more than them. Andrew Sorkin. No, yeah, whatever his fucking name is. It's a Sorkin. And I think, you know, personally, from my experience of American fascism, like, if you put me in the power, like, if you said, hey, Mike, you're in charge of the reconstruction of America, I'm sorry, but the gentleness of an education facility for the enemy, that's crazy. That's crazy gentle. All right, chat. I can't do it. Sometimes I like to watch the libs and see what they're doing, but I just can't do Jon Stewart. I'm just not built for it anymore. All right. Governor Walz is being interviewed.
Governor Walz met with the White House border czar Tom Homan today, who was dispatched to Minneapolis in the wake of Saturday's fatal shooting. It's the governor's first television interview since Alex Purdy was killed. I appreciate you being here. I'm sorry to make you stand out in the cold, but I guess you're used
Minnesota.
to it. Yeah. First of all, the meeting with Tom Homan, how did that go? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, Tom Homan's a professional, which is a lot more than Bovino and Kristi Noem. But look, I think the thing we said is we're very clear about this, that we need these folks out of Minnesota, and we need justice for Renee Good and for Alex, and those were things that we came with. I think the thing that I'm most concerned about is the tone was different. There was a tone shift. I wish it was because of the horrific, shooting that somebody saw some morality, but I think it's probably the press. But with that being said, I'm not interested in a more efficient Metro surge. I'm ready for them to get out of here, and I think that's where Minnesotans are talking about. So it was progress. Look, I never got a call from Bovino or Noem.
Never.
Nothing. No, nothing. When they're coming here, and Tom Homan landed last night, and he called me last night and asked if he could have a meeting, and he was there at 9:00. So, look, I think that's progress, but. They started this fire, so we're not giving anybody credit for putting it out. But right now what we need a return to normalcy by these ICE agents out of here. And you talked about this. In all those meetings with the White House and with Tom Homan and his team, nobody asked about Alex or his family. So I appreciate you bringing that up. This family going through the horror of losing their son, and then also to see him slandered like that, it's just
not only slandered. I'm slandered by the top officials
in the world,
the
the most powerful people in the world, and not taking it back. And look, for one whole day, certain news stations, that's all they were running, and that's one of the problems here. Look, Minnesota, they came here. We don't have near the undocumented folks that many other states do. Minnesota's a well-run state. Minnesota's a place where people get along. We welcome immigrant community, and they brought this down on us. And I think you're here, Anderson. You're telling your folks it's a siege. It's a siege in all respects. We have children being pulled from their parents. We have elderly people being drug out in this type of cold with no clothes. It's just absolute cruelty.
I mean, is it in your mind political that they came here to Minnesota?
Yes. There's no other facts for it. They've changed why they're here. Donald Trump himself said, I won that state 3 times. He didn't. And then I get a letter the other day from Pan Bondi demanding our voting record. And kind of like, well, we'll send these people out of here if you do that.
But there was an implication of quid pro quo in that.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Amateurish, but that's what they're doing. And they're never going to get those. And states control that, 10th Amendment. You're seeing all the contradictions. I appreciate you saying this. 2nd Amendment, 10th Amendment, everything else that is no longer there. But the one thing I can say is that come out of this, and you've seen it, the strength of the people of Minnesota, the decency of Americans, the ability to care for their neighbors, to be out there, that will last a lot longer than this administration. But I just say right now, it's very disheartening to me to see.
I think the main thing about Democrats is, the main thing about Democrats is that they really don't say anything. It's more that basically since Bill Clinton, they have been performing the action of witnessing pain. Like, that's basically it. Bill Clinton had a saying in his campaign called, he would just say, I feel your pain, right? And people would be like, oh, thank God someone finally feels our pain. Because presumably, when somebody feels your pain,
and say Kristi Noem's doing a great,
they're going to do something to relieve it.
Great job. I'm not sure.
If I have a headache, I go and get an ibuprofen. So if somebody also had that headache, I presume they would go and get the ibuprofen for both of us, right? Like, we have a headache. You feel that headache too. So you're also motivated to go fix it. And that's not it. Liberals believe that their job is to bear witness. So you're looking at Tim Walz and you're going, you're the governor of the state. You're the chief executive officer of Minnesota. You're in charge of the National Guard. You're in charge of the state police. You could direct government officials to all of government agencies of Minnesota to not cooperate with Donald Trump. You have all sorts of social power and you're head of the Minnesota Democratic Party, you've got all sorts of soft power and hard power, you can resist better than any other human being in the state of Minnesota. And his reaction is, that's very unrealistic of you. Yesterday, this coward said ICE should do night raids instead, so not as much of a public spectacle. I'm going to give Homan the benefit of the doubt. They should continue to coordinate with local law enforcement, pick these people up in the middle of the night when they're not suspecting it. Oh my God. And of course, notice who he's talking to. Jeb Bush's communication director. This is the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party goes and they promote centrist Republicans and their alternative media. Like when they have the ability to select any alternative media they want to go to, where do they go? They go talk to Jeb Bush's communication director. They don't go to Hassan, who has much bigger of a reach than the Bulwark. They don't go to me to build up another left-wing commentator. They don't even go to Atriok. They go to Jeb Bush's communication director, who spent most of the last year slandering Zohran Mamdani. That's really the situation that we're in. You guys, ultimately, we need to stop pretending that the Democratic Party likes us or cares about us in any way. They go on Ben Shapiro's podcast. They go on Charlie Kirk's podcast.
Sure, there's been anybody more incompetent or cruel that's ever served in a cabinet position than her, and this is on her. And look, we need to know who these people were. We need these guys brought back here.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you know,
we showed up to do an investigation, and we're not allowed onto the site.
In any normal situation, your state investigators,
the best,
would be on the scene, would be working the crime scene, would be in charge of this, or at least working with federal law enforcement.
And they've developed the trust of the people here, and what they come up with, they don't make any judgments on it. They turn it over. A grand jury will then bring indictments.
Has Tom Homan made any indication that that'd be something?
He said he would call Kash Patel about it. I asked him, I said, that's one of our demands that this happen. I also said, you know, insult to injury. It's just like there's a cruelty that runs so deep it's hard to understand. They opened a federal investigation into Renee Good's wife, and that's still ongoing. And I said, look, you want to send some goodwill to the people of Minnesota, you need to drop that. But he indicated he would do that. I see the president say he might peel down a little bit. When you deal with the president, and I said, I'm in a situation where people say, well, you got to give him something, you got to do something, don't anger him or whatever. It's pretty hard not to be angry when your citizens are being shot. It's pretty hard to be angry when you see the amateurs out here, you know, wreaking havoc. And there's no purpose to this. And I think what's really important to tell Americans, Minnesotans believe in law and order. Minnesotans believe that we should have border control. Minnesotans believe in due process, though. And Minnesotans want to know, if you say you're going to get the worst of the worst, quit lying about who you're arresting. Tell us who you're arresting.
It is shocking just to see. I mean, we've known for a long time these guys are wearing masks, but it is now just an army of masked men who seem to be acting with impunity and seem to be. I mean, I can't tell you how many of their videos there are of them, like, cursing out people.
Look at the cruelty of it. And up at the Whipple building, if you went up there, the federal building where they're stationed, they come out to get in their car and they taunt these folks. And we finally got to the point where we have to keep order. And it's very difficult when they're undermining order. They create this chaos and we have to come in and clean it up. So we took over the security of that building. When I say we, the state and the National Guard. So instead of those scenes up there you saw of just chaos and smoke grenades or whatever, you saw National Guard with uniforms on with their names, no mask, handing out donuts, hot chocolate, and coffee. And today I got a request from the protesters up there if they could deliver homemade food to the National Guard who are away from their homes. That's the way this is supposed to work. These are your neighbors. We have a group of folks here, mercenaries, who are told we're the enemy. They're kitted up like they're in Afghanistan to do these things. They take 7 people to throw Alex on the ground and then shoot him. It's insane. And I appreciate all the news media that here is telling it, and tell the rest of the country, stand with us on this. This is a stand we have to hold on. They have to leave here. They have to bring these folks to justice, and they have to be some accountability to the top levels. Kristi Noem still having a job today is absolutely outrageous.
The administration seemingly in cleanup mode over the killing of ICU nurse Alex Preddy. To people here, though, the cleanup is not what's wanted. Coming clean is, and signaling a course correction, if that's what the president is in fact now doing, is not the same as doing the right thing.
I mean, I think the main thing to keep in mind is again, the reason why we are where we are in our society is because people like Tim Walz have been leaders of the Democrats. There isn't one person with a fucking sense of urgency among the centrist Democrats. If they're kitted out like an occupying force, why are you acting like they can be reasoned with? Because they don't have another gear. If Tim Walz was like, we're going to resist them militarily, Let's just say that that was something on the table. He was calling other Democratic politicians and they were standing firm to defend the Constitution. Donald Trump would be in a very sticky situation and the American empire would be immediately under massive threat. But Tim Walz is more focused on preserving the American empire than he is your rights.
With that in mind, here's the president in neighboring Iowa this evening talking about the new official he sent here and the change he expects to see.
We have Tom Homan there now. We put him in there. He's great. And they met with the governor, the mayor, everybody else, and we're going to de-escalate a little bit.
De-escalate a little bit, he said. That's the president talking to a Fox host about bringing in his border czar Tom Homan to oversee the federal operation here and removing border official Gregory Bovino. The host, Will Cain, followed up with this.
Is this a pullback?
I don't think it's a pullback. It's a little bit of a change. Everybody in this room that has a business, you make little changes. Bovino is very good, but he's a pretty out there kind of a guy. And in some cases, that's good. Maybe it wasn't good here.
So Bovino is out and out there, according to the president, a little bit, and Homan is in. And before leaving for Iowa, the president also seemed to promise answers and accountability in the wake of what Bovino's men did to Alex Preddy just a few blocks from here just days ago.
We're doing a big investigation. I want to see the investigation. I'm going to be watching over it. I want a very honorable and honest investigation. I have to see it myself.
Well, keeping them honest, though, we've already learned that the investigation will be solely in the hands of the Department of Homeland Security. Neither the Justice Department nor the FBI will be involved, and no one from the state. When asked about DHS, Secretary Kristi Noem, the president today, said she was doing a, quote, very good job. Tonight, though, House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries is calling for her firing. Republican senators Lisa Murkowski and Tom Tillis are also calling for her departure. They're the first senators from their party to do so. Murkowski is saying it was, quote, probably time for her to go. Senator Tillis, when asked if he had confidence in Secretary Noem, said, quote, no, not at all. I think she should go. He later softened his remarks, but only slightly.
Senator, do you have confidence in Secretary Noem?
None at all.
But do you think Noem should step down?
I think Noem needs to decide what... I think if Noem looks at her body of work, I could not be. If I were in her position, I can't think of any point in pride over the last year. She's got to make her own decision, or the president does. But she has taken this administration into the ground on an issue that we should own.
So, the thing about Republicans, and this is something that a lot of people don't recognize because, you look at Donald Trump and you go, God, he's such a fucking moron. But they have a lot of smart mercenaries that are working behind the scenes. And they understand they need to win elections. And so they monitor public opinion. That's why they're so scared of like a Bernie Sanders or AOC. If you read the right wing, they know that their policies are extremely popular. And if they get implemented, they're never going away. Right? Like conservatives know that the New Deal was incredibly successful and it's not dismantleable. At least not quickly. They have to do it subtly and over the course of decades. So they understand that the left wing is actually the threat. And what they're seeing is Donald Trump and his extremism on immigration is not really helping their handlers and their donors. And in the long run is setting the stage for the left to actually come into power. And they could see that in their polling. They know it's coming. And so they recognize that this fascism and the resistance to it that's being engineered by the left and the left alone. I want you to understand that. The left is doing this. No one else is resisting ICE. It isn't Democrats, it's the left. And so seeing that growing in strength, seeing the effectiveness of that and the concern that the left is going to seize power of the Democratic Party and therefore realign the country, they're starting to be cracks of the facade of fascism.
Senator Tillis also laid into the president's deputy chief of staff and ultimate point man on immigration and deportation.
Stephen Miller never fails to live up to my expectations of incompetence. I can tell you, if I were president, neither one of them would be in Washington right now.
Well, Stephen Miller, for his part, is weighing in as well tonight, in part about the basis for this inaccurate statement, which both Secretary Noem and Gregory Bovino read just hours after Alex Preddy's killing.
An individual
approached U.S. Border Patrol officers
with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
The officers attempted to disarm this individual,
but the armed
suspect
he
reacted
violently resisted, fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers.
An agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately,
delivered medical aid to the subject, but the subject was pronounced dead at the scene.
This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at this scene to inflict maximum damage.
Where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement.
Here's what I would say in general. Like, when somebody comes out there and spreads just blatant lies like this, and it's about the murder of someone, here's what you need to understand. They want to kill you. Now, I can't speak my mind here. The most I could do is peepo smile. The most I could say is peepo smile. And the most I could say in general is, obviously I'm against adventurism. But I think that the lessons we can learn of, you know, the fact that, you know, I have an older brother, chat. And a lot of the times I would play, when I was playing Mario, I would sometimes take player 2. I'd take the controller to play because I liked Luigi's color scheme, you know? And I liked to let my little siblings occasionally feel like they were player 1. Because when I'm 10 years older than my youngest sibling. So when you're that much older, you stop having sibling rivalry and you're almost like an extra parent, to be honest with you, you know? And so I stopped needing to be player 1 as I grew and matured. And sometimes I'd let my little sibling play as player 1. So for me, Luigi is about leadership. And I want to follow exactly where Luigi is going. See what I mean? Be player 2. Be the player 2 of your life. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you got to let the next generation come up. So be player 2. Be Luigi. And, you know, he's got a cool color scheme. That color scheme is fucking cool as hell. I love that green. Anyway, what were we saying? Sorry. I just got nostalgic all of a sudden for being an old head, you know?
This individual went and impeded their
I want to be player 1. There's way too many player 1s. There's way too many people that are player 1. We need more player 2s right now. In fact, we have so few player 2s that we will remember you forever. It is so cool to be player 2. You'll be a national celebrity, an international celebrity if you're player 2. That's how desperately we need more player 2s.
Enforcement operations attacked those officers.
What's in before your week-long ban? See you next week.
Had a weapon on him and dozens of rounds of ammunition, wishing to inflict harm on these officers coming brandishing like that.
By the way,
and impeding their work that they were.
Do you guys not understand the metaphor of not always putting yourself first? Like, part of maturity is letting your relative take the Mario, be player 1 so they can feel important and they can feel loved and supported and not always second place. Because when you're the oldest, you are typically put into player 1. You're typically your parents are experiencing that stage of growth and development for the first time with you. So you have this kind of prime place as the oldest child, their first child. And so it's your job as you mature to recognize that your other siblings may not have that same benefit, and for you to put them first so that you have a healthy relationship with them, right? Instead of just sitting there and sticking your elbows out and always taking up player 1, sometimes you need to take that position and say, I'll be Luigi today. That's a sign of your character. And me telling you to be Luigi is a sign for me to tell you to put other people first, not always put yourself first. Well, I don't understand what you could possibly have a problem with that message. Do I have siblings? Yes, I just said that I have a sibling I'm 10 years older than. My mom had me when she was 22. It's okay. You probably didn't hear it. My mom had me when she was 22. Okay? Like, my mom was a kid when she had me. My siblings are much younger. As a dad of 4, I end up being Yoshi. Well, there you go. There you go. I think one of the problems that we have is there's too many Marios and not enough Luigis. Like, I unironically think the problem with our society is there's too many Marios and not enough Luigis. I grew up as like a certain, when I grew up, we were playing split screen, right? We did, honestly, and this is very funny, chat. There was not Xbox Live until I was in college. That's how old I am. Okay. When I played Halo Combat Evolved, I would play 4 on 4, and we would do system link. We were able to like hack our college's Ethernet, and we would have we would be in a common room in one dorm building, and we would be playing 4x4 split screen on a projector, and we would be playing 4x4 system link to somebody else in a different dorm who was doing the same thing. And we did it through the Ethernet of the college. So we were playing, that was before Xbox Live existed. That was the shit. But the advantage of playing split screen is that a lot of the times you were not player 1. Sometimes you were even player 4. And I think that gave you a certain type of character, right? Everybody had experience being Luigi. And I feel like now that we all are on our own, atomized, we're all plugged into, the internet, we're all on our own system. Too many of us are Marios. Sometimes you had to wait your turn. So think about this and think, I'm going to be a Luigi. Today is the day I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be Luigi. And that's what I want you to do, is care for other people. Put other people first. And ultimately, I think immortality comes from being Luigi, not from being Mario.
We're doing.
If either of these public officials had an ounce of decency, they would call up Alex Pretty's parents and apologize. Stephen Miller, for his part, called Alex Pretty a would-be assassin, also domestic terrorist.
Nobody wants to be the sidekick, but that's the point. Luigi isn't a sidekick. Luigi isn't a sidekick. He's a brother. He's a brother. He's his own man. And quite frankly, he's taller.
Tonight, though, he is saying this, quoting now, the initial statement from DHS was based on reports from CBP on the ground. Additionally, the White House provided clear guidance to DHS that the extra personnel that have been sent to Minnesota for force protection should be used for conducting fugitive operations to create a physical barrier between the arrest teams and the disruptors. We are evaluating why the CBP team may not have been following that protocol. The words, I'm sorry and I was wrong, were not included.
Stephen Miller is starting to back down because our resistance is so strong that even Stephen Miller is starting to back down.
For my life, not only for my life, for my daughter and my family.
Last Sunday, I got a desperate call from the Mancia Rodriguez family saying that Adonai had been detained. We're very close, so I came rushing here to Morristown. People were terrified. There was raids going on and people were just being taken. I arrived at the house to utter chaos. The family was just devastated. We had no idea where he was. The confusion was just palpable. And we just spent 2 days trying to locate Adonai in the system and trying to figure out how to go about this process.
Annabelle, you can show him what the photo you have in your tablet? Daddy. Who is Adonai? I can tell you it was my partner. It was the father for my daughter, Annabella Mancia, an amazing father. Adonai living over here was 16 years old. You have almost, maybe 11 or more, 11 years, me in the country. What happened last Sunday? I'm going to work. I say...
This is the soundtrack they put on.
I call my daughter, say, hey.
Ilhan's doing fine.
I see you later. And later came the worst day for my life, not only for my life, for my daughter and my family. Adonai was ordered food. She opened the door, and that minute just say 3 people jumping in him and take us, hey, you got arrested. Adonai say, hey, before you get arrested, check my record, check, my license, I have everything. She said, we don't care, just put in the custody, put into the floor. And when Adonai got it really fast, say, hold my daughter's inside. And Adonai repeat 3 times and say, hey, my daughter's inside, please, my daughter's inside. Give me a call. Or call somebody, She said, no, we're not coming for your daughter, we're coming for you.
They brought him to an unmarked vehicle along with other men that they had detained, and they brought him away to the Elizabeth Detention Center, leaving his daughter by herself in the house.
What happened to the daughter?
She was found about an hour later by a neighbor wandering in the street crying for her dad. She had put on her shoes and her jacket to go look for him because she knew it wasn't supposed to take that long for her father to get food from the front door.
And she said, she see in the mirror, we have a mirror in the room. She said, I talk to myself, mommy. I need to be strong and put in my jacket. What are you saying in the mirror?
I said, Daddy's taking too long. Then I'm going outside there and trying to look for my dad. But I stayed next to the house right there. Where's my tree?
Stayed close?
And then I found somebody and I was over there. And then I wait for them and then I said, hello, I'm trying to find my dad. He's not coming back, and I live in this house. I'm trying to find him, and they're not coming back, but I'm trying.
Adonai was absolutely not a criminal, a hardened criminal of any kind. He has no criminal record. He's a hardworking man who came under refugee status when he was just a teenager.
How you explain your daughter for 6 years old, your father's got arrested for something maybe she's not got it, because the first answer what she did to me, it is, Mommy, my father don't stole a bank, she don't break a bank, she have money for pay them food, why she take my daddy? It's okay. It's okay, Mama. It's okay. It's okay, Mama. Mommy's here.
Annabella is traumatized, to say the least. She does not want to be alone. She does not want to go to school. She doesn't want her mom to go to work. She just wants her dad. All she talks about is her dad.
Who it is?
Dad.
That's Dad?
You keep him with you?
Yeah.
Currently, Adonai has a lawyer. He was in the process of getting his green card. So we're hoping that the court will accept the case to be reopened, and that will mean that he can't be deported and that we will be able to bail him out, hopefully.
Sí, te escucha. Mira, saluda.
No, pues yo estaba preocupado cuando me agarraron porque literalmente mi hija se había quedado botada solita, entonces la mamá de ella no sabía pues
Claro.
que ella estaba sola.
Pero esta semana que llevas como detenido, ¿cómo has sentido durante la semana?
¿Cómo te sientes?
Pues donde estoy bien, pero literalmente quiero estar con mi hija en mi casa, porque ella me necesita bastante, pues no, y yo también la necesito a ella, entonces no me siento muy bien, que digamos.
Claro.
Hey, Taylor Lorenz, Caroline Kwan video about Chinese soft power just dropped. China maxing. From galvanized square steel to drinking hot water, why is the entire internet suddenly looking more Chinese? I might have to check this out, chat. This sounds like something that's very fun. We got to watch that this week. That might be a good Saturday content. The main reason I don't usually stream on the weekends, chat, is I like to have some time to myself to take care of errands and shit. But also, politics doesn't usually typically have a lot of stories on a Saturday. You know what I mean? You're really talking about the last week. There's not a lot of as many usually breaking stories on a Saturday. Now, things do happen, but as far as like a general reason why I don't stream on Saturday, it's that, you know? But maybe I could change that up. I used to stream 7 days a week, chat. Mike, have you seen that the Memphis Grizzlies owner is violating U.S. sanctions and selling equipment that Russia then uses to do war crimes in Ukraine? I mean, when half the owners in the NBA are Zionists, I have a hard time giving a shit about that story, to be honest with you.
The blame game inside the Trump administration, while the president says things in Minneapolis are going to, quote, de-escalate a bit. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller, the president's powerful advisor, are taking over the deadly shooting of Alex Preddy and their statements after it. Miller described Preddy as a would-be assassin. Noem described him as a domestic terrorist. The videos clearly refuted those claims, and now Noem is facing growing bipartisan calls to resign. And Miller, in a rare retreat, is acknowledging agents may have breached protocol that he set, or the White House set, before the shooting. With us now, CNN's Betsy Klein and Jeff Zeleny. And first, I honestly do think
ultimately, chat, this is a period of time where I just feel better streaming. When I don't stream, I end up spending the same amount of time thinking and talking about politics. Maybe we should go back to and the thing about me is I have a long proven track record of streaming nonstop for months and months at a time, 7 days a week. So you can count on me to be live. You know what I mean? You can count on me. Oh, sorry. You can count on me to be live. You know what I mean? Like, we could just go, if you go and check it out, if you check it out, you can see that let me see if we could go. I think this is the button, right? No, this is not the button. Where's the button where it shows all your streaming? Oh, here it is. If you go back, you see this? You see 2021 and 2020? You see how every block is filled? That's streaming every day of the week. Then I got banned for 2 weeks. That's me getting banned for 2 weeks. And you can just see bam, 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 bam. Then you can see that I started streaming 6 days a week. And then I went to 5 days a week with the occasional weekend streams, you know? But I've kind of been feeling it, man. I've kind of been feeling it. Will I be live on Sunday? It's looking like it. It's looking like it, you know? I want to push for 10K. 10K viewers, chat. Is that crazy? Maybe I should just stream 7 days a week until I hit 10K. What do you guys say? Line going up. That's what I think. Too many of these, too many people have been, I think a Hassan-like schedule is actually the right decision for me. I think a Hassan-like schedule is really the right decision for me. Maybe I'll take a couple days off here or there, but that seems like the right call.
A flowchart, friend, of my understanding of the blame game here. There you can see, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is blaming Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller seems to be blaming Customs and Border.
If you and Hassan shoot at the same time, I'd be watching you over him. I know you're not a sub. Casual fan. Non-subbed fan. But oh, by the way, I don't mean stream against Hassan. I wake up at 6 a.m. on my own. The thing about me is I don't set an alarm, chat. I just wake up at 6 a.m. on my own. It's easy for me. It's not stressful for me. So it's not a struggle. I mean, technically it's 6:30 is when I will definitely be up, but I wake up at 6 on my own. What time do I go to bed? Usually around 11:30. If I were to look at my sleeping, I track my sleep. If I look at my sleep, if I had my complete freedom to sleep, I would sleep 7 hours. 7 hours and 20 minutes, actually. These kids don't understand a 40-year-old sleep schedule. I mean, how's the workouts been? Pretty good. We got a workout today. I wish I could run on 6 hours. I need at least 8. Nah, I need 7. More than 7 is, I wake up. Anyway, let's keep it going.
Protection. Betsy, you're at the White House. Do I have that flow chart?
I think that's about an accurate assessment, John. And I just want to point to you to this very remarkable statement to our colleague Kristen Holmes from Stephen Miller yesterday. As you said, in the immediate aftermath of federal agents' killing of Alex Preti on Saturday, we heard Stephen Miller go to social media almost immediately. He referred to Preti as, quote, a domestic terrorist, also a would-be assassin. And you can believe that he was behind a lot of the messaging that was coming from this White House. But then last night, in this statement to our colleague Kristen Holmes, he says, quote, the White House had provided clear guidance to DHS that the extra personnel that had been sent to Minnesota for force protection should be used for conducting fugitive operations to create a physical barrier between the arrest teams and the disruptors. He goes on to say, we are evaluating why the CBP may not have been following protocol. He also says that some of the original statements that were coming from the Department of Homeland Security were, quote, based on reports from CBP on the ground. So clearly shifting blame there and notably not disputing that he was involved in those statements.
But not apologizing for them either, correct, Betsy?
Absolutely right.
Okay, and that's important because he said those things. He's blaming now CBP for giving him the information that led to those statements, but he is not apologizing. Jeff, bigger picture here, when you take a step back, this is very unusual from this Trump administration or any Trump administration for that matter. They have really conducted now about 3 retreats in the last week by my count. First on Greenland, first the idea no military action, definitely going to own it. Now, maybe not so much. The president had to backtrack on saying NATO troops weren't on the front lines in Afghanistan, and now clearly backing off a little bit in Minneapolis. That's a lot different than we've seen before from this administration.
John, it absolutely is. It's not only unusual, it just hasn't happened, particularly on immigration. Look, this was intended to be for President Trump. It always has been. It's one of the things that helped get him elected in the first place back in 2016 and certainly reelected in 2024. Now immigration is viewed by Republicans as a weakness for this administration. That explains the flow chart that you were pointing out earlier. Stephen Miller isn't doing this simply because he's suddenly had a change of heart. He's doing this because even a few Republicans, a small but growing number of Republicans, are beginning to confront and challenge and question this administration. It is all coming, of course, as the very emission in Minnesota is being reviewed. And it's a funding review from ICE, of course. It could lead to a government shutdown at the end of the week. We shall see. But Stephen Miller knows the president is unhappy about this. That's why he is sort of backpedaling here. But the bigger picture, it's not just optics here. Is policy actually going to change? And that is very much unclear. One huge difference from this administration versus the first Trump administration, he's very reluctant to fire anyone. In the first administration, people were being fired all the time, week by week. That has not happened. So I do not expect any firings here, but this is a dramatic change of a position here. And keep your eye on Stephen Miller. He's viewed as a liability in some circles here. He's very close to the president. I don't expect him to go anywhere. But that statement that Betsy was reading, extraordinary, because we have never seen a retreat.
Stephen Miller, who called Alex Preddy a would-be assassin, acknowledges possible protocol breach by CBPT before shooting. The other thing that I think is under-discussed and under-reported is that this isn't just ICE. This is also Customs and Border Patrol, which is a separate institution from ICE. And I think that that is actually the major error that's being made. Customs and Border Patrol is honestly even more radicalized under Bovino. Trump says Ilhan Omar probably had herself sprayed in syringe attack. Here's what I would say about that.
Like that from him.
Yeah, and Betsy, just, I'll hold up the flow chart once again since Jeff just celebrated it here. Where's the president in this flow chart? Who exactly does the president blame among these 3 choices?
Well, I think the president's message here is that he's trying to de-escalate. He is trying to, we've seen him even talk to Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Fry in the aftermath. The president now is essentially saying that those calls are cordial and constructive. But when we ask if this is a substantive or a symbolic change, the White House still actively blaming Democrats. We heard from Caroline Leavitt saying that this is a deliberate and hostile resistance by Democrat officials, blaming the Pretty killing on Democrats. But what is the change on Minneapolis here? And President Trump is appearing to indicate that there might be some more substantive changes. We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, based on how Tom Homan has described the conversations with Tim Walz and the mayor there, and they both have described it, there is a bit of substantive difference there, merely in the dialogue. And very quickly, Jeff, while I still have you here, Republicans on Capitol Hill, how far do you think they're willing to take their criticism?
Well, we will see. I mean, it's a growing number, but it's still a very small number of people. But I think the Senate Majority Leader John Thune he called this an inflection point. So everyone is calling for an investigation and more oversight into ICE. Again, that is not something we saw after the Renee Good shooting. So this is a different moment. There is no doubt about it. But again, to Betsy's point, will policies change on the ground? Again, what was a strength for the administration is now a political.
A lot of fingers being pointed over the Trump administration's false claim that Alex Preddy, the man fatally shot in Minneapolis, was out to massacre federal agents, an accusation just not supported by the video we've all seen. Multiple sources suggested to Axios that the language came from the president's hardline advisor, Stephen Miller, with one source saying, quote, Miller had a gun and knew what the narrative would be. Preddy came to massacre cops. Miller, for his part, said, quote, any early comments made were based on information sent to the White House through Customs and Border Protection.
And this is also the problem with fascism in general. Fascists, they start lying so much that they start lying to each other. And then the problem with lies are you don't know what's true. And it's useful to know what's true. That's why Hitler You know, if you watch Downfall, Hitler was screaming about how they're going to like defeat the Red Army by doing some attack, and they only needed to be a little bit more brave. And then they're going to like sweep around the, the Soviet lines and do an envelopment and then break out and, liberate German lands again or whatever. And it's just, there's been so much lying. They're all lying to each other so much. They no longer have any fucking reality until it gets to the point where all the lies collapse and they're undeniable and they blow their fucking brains out or drink poison. Fascism is a cult of death that devours itself alive like an Ouroboros. Exactly. And so Stephen Miller going, oh yeah, he came to ICE to massacre. Why did he walk up to them to help a woman up if he was there to massacre ICE? If you were there to massacre ICE, you get yourself a automatic weapon, you go into a elevated position, you create a few smoke bombs or you create a few improvised explosive devices, you create a kill zone, and then you shoot ICE. Like, that's how somebody would do that. That's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not attacking ICE by walking up to help a woman who's been knocked over. Mike, TOS, what? I'm discussing tactical shit that's real. I'm not saying to do it. Obviously, that would be illegal and you should not do that. I'm saying that, like, I could talk to you about what an ambush is, okay? I'm not saying, so it's obviously not an ambush. The point of an ambush is that you gain a tactical advantage by taking advantage of surprise. Alex Preddy going up there and saying, you guys are being unhinged and helping a woman who's been knocked over for no fucking reason is not going there with an intent to massacre ICE agents.
With us now is Mark Caputo, the senior politics
I've
reporter for
always
Axios.
been against acts of adventurism. I've always been against acts of adventurism. And that's the entire point of this stream, is that we need to work collectively, not individually. That would be like if he was sitting in his car chilling and then jumped out with his gun. That would be an ambush, not standing there filming them. Exactly. Did you hear the audio recording of Erica Kirk cheering on the merch sales and attendance numbers at events? No, I didn't. Please send me the link.
Who really broke this story yesterday. Mark, as always, I'm really excited to talk to you since you were out so far in front of this story. I put together a little flow chart based on your reporting here of who is being blamed and how inside the White House and inside the administration. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is blaming Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller appears to be blaming Customs and Border Protection. Do I have that correct?
Generally, what I do know is that Noem is feeling the heat on Hill and elsewhere. And she's told people, and I'm told she also told the president, look, everything I've said is because of what I've been told to say and do by the president and Stephen Miller. And as you pointed out, Miller is saying that statement that was released came because of on-the-ground reports from CBP. And specifically what you're hearing more people in the White House start to say is the bad guy in all of them, putting bad guy in air quotes, is Greg Bovino, the commander, the cowboy, in the words of one person who was in charge of this, call it a shambolic operation, in the deaths of 2 people and the shooting of a total of 3 in a month.
Yeah, there are 2 separate things I think we should point out here that Miller now seems to be saying to you and others. Number one, that CBP, that the officers on the ground broke some kind of protocol, some kind of instructions they'd been given by the White House about how they were supposed to behave, actually enforce the law. But also Miller is saying that he was told perhaps misleading stuff by CBP. Those are 2 things, but are those both directionally what Stephen Miller is saying now?
Yeah, that's correct. According to the White House, according to Miller, there is protocol that they had developed where teams, these squads that would go on these immigration raids or to execute these warrants or find, in their words, these criminal aliens, would be divided in 2. One group would do crowd control to stop what they called the disruptors, and the other would go and according to them, on this fateful day, on Saturday, that just sort of devolved and none of that took place. Now, obviously, in the background of this, there have been other videos, other cases, egregious policing that had happened under Bovino. Specifically, there was the young man at the Target worker who was pushing around grocery store carts, gotten some sort of jawboning incident with these agents. They tackled him, they kind of beat him, they shoved him in a van, and they dropped him off nearby. Stuff like that did start to really rankle at finally the president.
Yeah, I was going to say, so based on your reporting, if we have this chart of the blame game, where does the president fit here? As far as you can tell, who is the president blaming?
He's not really blaming anyone. It's just one of those sort of, hey, things sort of happen and let's move on. One of the things the president doesn't want to do is communicate.
Hey, things happen, let's move on. Well, it's very important for us, chat, that we don't move on. Very important that we don't allow the Democrats to move on. It's very important that we hold them just as accountable so they feel the heat.
Weakness that he's backing off, and in that, under that umbrella is the idea that he needs. So let's just be very clear. Kristi Noem, from all of the information we're getting and from all the observations that we've made collectively as the news media and those of us who cover the White House specifically, Kristi Noem is staying. And so is Stephen Miller, his longest serving political advisor from Trump 1, architect of the immigration plan, a guy with encyclopedic knowledge of immigration law, who really sort of represents a lot of the hardline policies that Trump at heart really does.
And then just very quickly, any bit of reporting that you've done that indicates that Noem or Miller or anyone might apologize for the statements that they made just after this incident happened on Saturday?
I have gotten no indication of that. We've asked if, hey, do you want to issue at least some sort of correcting information? And so far the answer to that has been no.
Mark Caputo, as I said, great reporting on this. You were out in front with this yesterday. Really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
All right, chat. CNN just released a video. Pink coat lady.
I couldn't believe
Pink coat lady interviewed. The pink coat lady from ICE shooting. Describe. So that's, I don't know how to describe it. She's just basically, she's the Preddy shooting witness. That's a good title. And I don't know if you've seen the video. I honestly, the thing about me is I'm already mentally at such a radicalized place that I can't watch this shit. I can't watch this shit because it is, I'm already as radicalized as you can be. Like there's no more space between me and the wall, right? Like I'm already up against it. So watching this shit more than once is not good for me. They executed this guy and there is absolutely no justification whatsoever. And not only that, I don't think any of these guys should be walking around. I think every single one of them is a murderer. I think every single one of them should be in prison and facing the death penalty for first-degree premeditated murder. Every single one of them.
what I was seeing. Like, what? And I knew he was gone because I watched it. And then they come over to try to perform some type of medical aid by ripping his clothes open with scissors and then maneuvering his body around like a rag doll, only to discover that it could be because they wanted to count the bullet wounds to see how many they got, like he's a deer. I watched that, and that is what it felt like they were doing, and that is part of why I was like, what are you guys doing? Why would you jostle his body around like that? You're not even doing anything to help him. But I knew he was gone.
Well, for days she's been called the woman in the pink coat, and she captured the crucial video showing exactly what happened when Alex Preddy was shot and killed by DHS officers. She had not come forward until today, and her name, which is being revealed for the first time, is Stella Carlson. She's a children's entertainer. She runs a children's entertainment company. She's a face and body painter and an airbrush artist. All of it a world away from anything she or anyone could possibly imagine. You knew he was gone then?
I knew he was gone. There was no way with the way his body was moving, and I only knew that because of the way they were manipulating his dead body, just playing with it. Like they're in a video game. They were looking at us and laughing.
After the shooting?
Yes. I mean, the reason of escalation was due to the mockery. We understand why the MPD is unable to intervene on a level we would like. But you would like to think that their kindness, compassion, looking us in the eyes would occur in these moments when we're being attacked in the streets.
Here's what you need to understand. And I'll say it again. They are fascist enemies, and they act like this because they feel like they have impunity. So they need to be denied impunity. There's really nothing more to be said. And if you want to be able to deny them impunity, you have to be in a large armed group. That's the only way to deny them impunity. If you act, even if you're an armed individual, they could just shoot you unprovoked. And because you don't have anybody there to defend you, they could parade your corpse around.
And the MPD just felt like they were part of that team at that moment. And maybe that, I'm not talking about the whole
Were
department,
Minneapolis
but
Police Department people on the scene?
once the yellow tape was up, there were MPD officers who were standing in line, 5 of them, I think.
Marks and me, thank you so much for the 50 gifted. Holy fuck.
And they wouldn't look at us. Everyone just kept saying, just look at us. You're our representatives. You work for us. Why won't you look at us? Like a part of our community just was murdered in the street. Like, you're our Minneapolis Police Department. Why won't you even just look at us to give us solidarity?
Because they support it. Because they support it. I know that's a painful thing to hear, but they support it. They support it. And if you find out you've got a fascist occupied police department, you need to disarm them. I don't know what else to say.
You know, when we walk around with the whistles around our neck, it's not that we have, like, we know we can't do much. But what we do know is that we can let our community at large know when we're walking around, like, I see you. And if you're stuck in your apartment, I want you to see me. I'm another person walking around who is here to protect you as best I can with my whistle and my phone, which really feels not great.
And yet, you stood there with a phone and you documented this. You didn't run away.
So fucking what? Okay, I mean, yes, okay. I want to say she's a fucking hero. I don't want anybody to think that I'm criticizing her. She's a fucking hero, and her feelings are completely normal. And I completely understand them. The only difference between me and her is I am not surprised. And I don't like to be a not surprised guy. I don't like that. I've talked about this before. Don't be the not surprised guy. But in this moment, I want to give everybody who's watching this an understanding of what's going on here. A lot of people, they watch this and they're like, I don't understand it. I want to explain to you. They're doing exactly what they want to do, and they're going to do it more unless we fight back. That's the only point I want you to know.
I am not one to run when I'm afraid. I just, no way was I going to leave Alex by himself, undocumented. Like, that wasn't an option. I mean, obviously somebody was just executed in the street. I knew I was in danger. We all were, but I wasn't going to leave if we weren't all cleared out. And if it wasn't for the collective actions over the past 3 weeks, I don't know if I would have been able to stay that long. But I knew that this was a moment, and we all have to be brave, and we all have to take risks, and we're all going to be given moments to make that decision. And I guess in my default mind of crisis there, that's where mine fell. And I'm grateful to myself, and I'm grateful to anybody who was supportive to me after, to make sure I could get to safety and get that video uploaded to the right people.
Federal government says that they are investigating what happened. Have you been contacted by anyone from the federal government? FBI?
No, I have
Border
not.
Patrol, Homeland Security?
I do have a legal team now who are fielding much of that, and I am no longer accessible.
I talked to your attorney this morning. She said she had not received any outreach from the FBI or anybody from the federal government.
Because they're not investigating this as a crime. They're not investigating this as a crime. I want you to understand that none of the people that have been killed in cold blood they're not investigating this as a crime. I think people are kind of delusional. They assume it's happening. It's not happening. I've seen no evidence whatsoever that they're investigating any of these murders as a crime. And in fact, I actually blame the Democrats for that, because they have the political power and the political office to do it. Now, I heard that they that there was some Minnesota people that went and like kind of looked around the murder scene that's been like tainted for multiple days now. But as far as I'm concerned, if I went and shot someone, hypothetically, I would be arrested the next day. Like, if I went out and notoriously shot someone in the middle of the street and then went home and sat at home, I'd be arrested the next fucking day. Like, they're investigating to find ties to rapid response groups so they could justify gang insurrection ties. They want to prosecute DSA, PSL as revolutionary groups. Renee Good was murdered almost a month ago, and Jonathan Ross is still free. There was a release from an internal CBP that said every incident has been deemed justified before any investigation was done. So yeah, nothing's happening. Exactly.
Do not think they have my name. Obviously they will.
You've given testimony to state investigators.
Yes.
Do you have confidence in a federal investigation?
No, I do not. I have faith in various representatives throughout our country who are trying to do the right thing and make sure that justice is served. I have faith in our local government in Minnesota. I think they are wanting to make sure to protect us and investigate it thoroughly, but they are trying to block that from happening. They wouldn't even let the investigative team come to the crime scene. I mean, their goal is to protect themselves and to spin stories.
It's incredible to me, though, 4 days after this shooting, you have not been contacted by anybody from the FBI or the federal government.
Right.
What does that tell you?
That they're protecting themselves and they don't care about the truth of what happened. They're looking for their way to create the truth that protects and allows them to move forward with whatever it is, which we all have various ideas of what that looks like, but whatever it is that their long game is in creating this violence in our streets. This is not, these are people from all over the country who have not been trained to intervene, kick down doors, break away families, leave children stranded in the street without their parents, having communities throughout Minnesota trying to come together to figure out who can foster all of these children who have been abandoned in apartments that have been kicked down with now no family around. I mean, how can you justify that? There's enough evidence for what they've been doing before it ever came to murder.
To you, this is murder.
I know it is. It was an assassination in full view in the middle of the streets of somebody who has served our country and continues to at the Veterans Hospital. Like, nobody should have to worry about being assassinated in their streets, especially in America, which nowhere it should be that way. I think people are feeling like there's nobody here to help us. There's nobody who can step in to protect us. And I think people are at a loss and shooken, like, what do we do? What can we do? What is in our constitutional rights that don't seem to matter? The Constitution doesn't seem to matter. There's many people who have died, but we don't know what that looks like. You know, people from being detained and having a medical crisis without intervention. I've heard of many stories where people are sick and they don't have their medications. All of those human rights violations, those stories aren't being told yet. So this is only the beginning of a very long road. When this does end, we're all ready to move forward with productive ways to make this. But how do we do that when our local officials in the state of Minnesota also have their hands tied? So
who's tying them? Who's tying their hands? Who the fuck is tying their hands? They're tying their own hands. Walz doesn't need some kind of permission to issue arrest warrants, right? Correct. The Minnesota Democrats could file arrest paperwork, information, or indictments in Minnesota state courts, and they can send Minnesota state troopers to go and arrest this guy. They don't need, there is dual jurisdiction in America. So they could charge them with state crimes. They could arrest them using state law enforcement. The only people tying their hands are the Democrats. The reason why they don't want to do that is they worry that that ICE will militarily resist having him arrested. That's the reality. They're worried about a constitutional crisis, and they're defending Trump's power. Okay, chat, we're going to finish this, but coming up, I have to tell you, I have the wackiest shit I've ever seen. Candace Owens is leaking Erica Kirk audio, and it's very, she sounds so fucking greedy, it's insane.
It broke down to, then it's us. We only have each other. Nobody's here for us. Nobody's going to help us right now because their hands are tied. So this is what we can do. I can document in case somebody detained, which is what I was filming, right? In case someone gets detained. Did I think I was going to be filming a murder, an assassination?
Do you worry about you becoming a target because you've spoken out?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I hope that me coming forward and doing this allows others to do it with.
In the Bulwark interview, Walz mentioned waiting 3 years to prosecute. He's laying the groundwork to surrender.
I think there's safety in more of us taking those
when
risks.
Everybody forgets, basically.
But I understand we cannot all
Nobody
do
cares
that.
anymore,
this
basically.
This is just, you know, one more moment to tell the truth. One more moment. I'm just here to represent all the work we're doing, and I'm here to represent the truth. I'm not here to represent me. I'm here to represent we. I care about my community. I care about my state and my country. And this is one small thing I can do.
It was Stella Carlson who provided crucial evidence for whatever investigation may be done. Perspective now from former Minneapolis Police Chief Medario Arredondo. It is incredibly brave of her to come forward. She didn't have to.
Yeah, Anderson, what I saw from Ms. Carlson is that I saw both courage, but I also saw vulnerability. One of the things that stood out to me as well is it was almost this to leaders. We just want the truth. The people just want the truth. As tough, as difficult as it may be, she's saying have the moral courage. It may not be pretty, but tell us the truth.
What's so stunning is I mean, first of all, had she not videotaped this and had the bravery to stand there 5 to 10 feet away from this, and the others also, there were multiple people from different angles, the lies would stand. I mean, and who knows how many other lies have been told when there's not cameras.
Yeah, and and unfortunately, there's been situations throughout the country where these engagements, these interactions with police have not been captured on video. And so communities left to see what they know is the truth against another narrative. And so, again, courage, vulnerability, but bravery, and you can sense that.
Do you think the arrival of Tom Homan is going to make much of a difference in terms of actually what's happening on the ground, the tactics being used, the individuals who are roaming the streets masked?
Yeah, I think people are going to be expecting a change. They're going to be expecting a change in the tactics. Borders are Homan being here. That's something different. But Anderson, if the people do not see a change in the tactics, none of it's going to matter. So they're going to expect change.
All right, chat, let's look at this audio because it's fucking nuts. And I love, like, Candace Owens being batshit crazy and a schizophrenic is one of the best things to come out of this entire last year, because conservatism is now spinning out of control. They've had these dumb conspiracy theorists at their beck and call with dumb conspiracies like QAnon, but now they have Candace Owens and she's just ripping apart the entire right-wing ecosystem, and it's fucking hilarious.
Happy Tuesday. I survived the ice storm. I'm sorry that we were down yesterday. We had no internet, but we are going to make up for it with a show this Friday. Anyway, what do I have for you today? You guys already know that many people are upset with me. And by many people, I mean the mainstream media and all of their cronies. They're upset for a lot of reasons. Foremost, because I mentioned the idea that Charlie's life may have been the Truman Show. How dare I? Well, it's about to get a little more weird when I tell you something else that we have learned about the origins of the X-Men school that he went to in his youth. I probably should.
Oh, the what?
I know it seems very far off, but it would be considered probably back in my day literal insanity to allow someone to take over the reins of an organization that quite literally relies on the goodwill of the public. It's a charitable organization, which happened to have raised over $250 million following the assassination of its founder. And then apparently nobody's interested in doing a basic profile piece on the new chairman and CEO that took over. Like that's actually, that makes no sense. And so that's what we are committing ourselves to. We are doing a couple of episodes to set.
Forgot the medium she for Mike from PA chat is. Oh, what? What are you trying to type? Ninja, you're going to have to try again.
Separate fact from fiction when it comes to the background of Erica Kirk, because the public deserves to know. And like I said, it's basic journalism. This entire idea that, well, Charlie wanted this.
Yeah, Weeping Tom, I saw that.
That just would fly probably actually nowhere in the world, not even in the old world, not even under monarchy rule in the 11th century. In England, would that work? You can't just say, oh, well, that was his missus. That was his queen consort, and hand her a kingdom. Even under that model, be Charlie's son that would inherit.
She's like, even under an agnatic, cognatic primogenitor, the queen consort is never in line to inherit. It's like,
Point USA. So stop doing that. Stop saying that. Doesn't make any sense. The public is not biting. I am not biting. And to be clear, the more time that goes on, the more that we are seeing the general direction that this company is taking under her stewardship, the less we're liking. The general public doesn't like it. I don't like it. And especially the recent bout of paranoia where we had a bunch of employees who factually worked 20-hour days. That fact, by the way, you are about to hear Erica confirm herself. Those employees were then fired without even being given a clear reason as to why. Just, gotta go, going in a different direction. That doesn't exactly match what we were told as the public. We were told that they're a family. How dare anybody question anybody ever in the family? Followed immediately, almost seemingly in the new year, by get out. We're just moving in a different direction. knock, knock, we're at your door, you fired, and you better hand me your computer or else. We just want to know what happened here. Anyway, being a 501c3 company, being a charity, becoming a charitable organization makes you, of course, accountable to the public. Always, they are allowed to ask questions, even if you want to send out a bunch of cease and desist letters. And thanks to this recent string of misguided firings, that's putting it mildly, we did happen to get our hands on an audio recording of a corporate-wide Zoom call, which took place pretty immediately following Charlie's memorial. So for clarity, this call took place on Monday, September 22nd. So this is 11.
Oh, shit. Sorry, chat. I don't think it's likely that she has schizophrenia because she is 36 and it's very unusual for it to be have onset this late. If she was like 22, I would be like, yes. But at 36, it's hard for me to believe that it's like schizophrenia, although everything is a spectrum. So maybe she has some certain types of conspiratorial thinking and it is similar to disordered thinking. That maybe it doesn't rise to the level of full-blown schizophrenia, but nonetheless is some sort of schizoid.
7 days, less than 2 weeks after her husband was publicly assassinated in front of the entire world. It's important to remember that. It's also less than 48 hours, about 48 hours after his private Catholic funeral mass, which the public was not privy to. Top paying donors were. That's also odd. We'll save that for another day. I just think that you should know that. I want to plug that into our master timeline, which I know I keep promising you I'm going to publish. I will. So we know on September 10th, Charlie is assassinated. This is the bottom of the timeline. On the 18th, this, by the way, strikes me as odd in the retrospect as I was working on these couple of episodes about Erica. On the 18th, there's 8 days after the assassination, she gave an in-person interview with the New York Times at her and Charlie's condo. Now, regarding the New York Times profile piece, I was totally in a cloud of grief by myself when all of that went down. Okay, you remember I had to go away to Wyoming just to breathe, to process, to get closer to accepting that it was real. I went away for 2 weeks. I didn't really catch the fact that it was an in-person meeting until later. 8 days after his public assassination, she sits down for a piece with the publication that hated Charlie the entire time he was alive. New York Times was constantly writing hit pieces about Charlie Kirk or pieces that just were not kind or favorable to Charlie Kirk. So it's an interesting decision. And reading the article.
What I love about Candace Owens is she's legitimately stupid because the New York Times was trying to canonize him and they were sucking him off. And they were shaming because a lot of regular left-wing people were kind of laughing at Charlie Kirk's death. Let's be completely honest. And so when Erica Kirk sat down with the New York Times, it was in the context of the New York Times trying to punch left and elevate Charlie to some sort of like bipartisan example of the right way to do things. So Candace Owens is she's either stupid, which she is, or she is like just thinking her audience is stupid, which they are. So, okay, good point.
Or rereading, because somebody said you should actually go back and revisit everything that transpired in the days after, and you kind of have new eyes, and that's very true. But in reading that article in retrospect, something that I...
Back online after internet blackout. I grew up in Connecticut and have truly never seen an ice like this ever. The temperature is 30 degrees, but the ice at our treetops is not melting at all. Never seen anything like this. Anybody else? 30 degrees Fahrenheit is below the freezing temperature of water, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, here's the one thing. Okay. Oh boy.
I am particularly struck by is the fact that she described...
I'll be publishing the VOD after today's stream. Sorry, chat. There was something I played yesterday that got pinged for, I don't know, some sort of like DMCA risk. And so whenever Twitch determines that one of your videos... something you played has DMCA risk, they will like take down your VODs and they won't allow you to auto publish the next one, even if nobody claimed shit. Did you see LSF top mod number 2? Okay, this will be the next thing we look at. Oh yeah. We did.
Suddenly being forced.
We did.
Into
it was a joke. It was a
single
joke.
mother position.
Good joke.
As the quote unquote least traumatizing thing. Becoming a single mother suddenly, 8 days later, she describes it as the
Is that
least
why Twitch Rewind isn't working today? Yes, it'll work. It'll be working tomorrow.
traumatizing thing. Again, that's an exact quotation. I'll read it. You can see it. They're going into this. They're speaking about Trump's energy and his tone toward her on phone calls. And it reads, quote from her, "The president's tone," she said, "was soft and embracing. I could tell he wanted to hug me." Others have responded in the same manner to Ms. Kirk, now left to care for a 3-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son. That new life, Ms. Kirk said, quote, "is actually the least traumatizing thing for me, since she herself has been raised by her mother after their parents divorced when she was young." And we're just supposed to pretend that that's completely normal or whatever. I would figure maybe the least traumatizing bit would be something more mundane, maybe along the lines, if this was a thing, if Charlie constantly filled up her gas tank and someone was like, well, who's going to fill up your gas tank? She might reply, that's actually the least traumatizing thing. I don't even care about that. That's just me filling up my car. That would be like the least traumatizing thing. Becoming a single mother after your husband is horrifically assassinated, realizing that your children are going to grow up without a father who toured the world and spoke about the importance of fatherhood and relayed the statistics pertaining to the youth that grow up without their fathers in the home. I would describe that as very traumatizing. I think across the board, that's a traumatizing thing, not the least traumatizing thing by any stretch of an imagination. Anyway, we are now in season 7, episode 4 of Everybody Grieves Differently, but that's weird. Now, getting to this corporate call again, can we just go back if you want to throw in that schedule again? Sorry, yeah, okay, great. Okay. So we have this on the 10th.
Okay, so she has this. Oh fuck! This is why Candace Owens is like popular. This is why Candace Owens is popular in a nutshell, chat. Right here, this explains it all. Because a lot of people have a little bit of conspiratorial thinking. And so she scratches that itch. And there's nothing people love more than a cork board with a bunch of red lines, connecting various things. Okay. Charlie Kirk is assassinated. On that same day, Operation Bright Star, Cairo joint operation with the United States and France formally ends. The French did it, chat. They took him out. They took out Charlie Kirk. Presumably with the cooperation of the Trump administration. BTT departs Provo, Utah at 7:14 a.m. local time. BTT departs Wilmington, Delaware for Cairo at 7:56 a.m. local time. BND departs Provo. Okay, what the fuck is happening?
He's assassinated. On the 18th is that in-person interview with New York Times. On the 20th, we have the funeral mass, which is held at a church at 11 a.m. On the 21st is the public memorial event that is held at State Farm Stadium. And on the 22nd, which I had not mentioned before, I've been building this timeline in the background, there's a private dinner. Not going to mention what restaurant it's at, but the McCoys are there, Elizabeth, Mikey, Erica, and they're in joyous spirits, is exactly what the email said of someone who was there. They were in joyous spirits.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay, my neck thing went a little bit lower. There we go. Joyous spirit. That's fucking awesome.
Okay. Just want to get that. I think a lot of this, when you hear this call that I'm about to play for you, I'm not trying to color your opinion, but I am going to give you mine because it's my podcast. I'm allowed to do it. I do want to remind you that Charlie has not been dead for 2 weeks. That's where you have to go back to. Not even 2 weeks after Charlie was publicly assassinated.
No matter what side of this question you're on, I think it's very clear that Erica Kirk was not full of much grief. I mean, I think she barely squeezed out like 1 or 2 tears in her Bari Weiss interview. Like she doesn't seem like she was very grief stricken. I think everybody could pretty much agree with that, right? She seemed pretty unperturbed.
Not a normal, he didn't, we had to watch this. We had to visually watch this. Now, the entirety of this call, which we're not going to play, is 15 minutes long. I'm going to figure out how to just drop it on my X feed. But I want to make sure that we properly and fairly contextualize it. So we're not being choosy. We're not cutting this for drama. The obvious point of this call to set this up is to introduce Erica. She's the new leader. Not even introducing, she's just heading up this call, but obviously she's going to be at the helm of this. So they're getting to know her. And she does begin the call by being thankful to the entire Turning Point USA team for their work at the memorial event. So let's take a listen.
Hi, everybody. I still love all these emoji Zoom things. Wow. I don't even know where to begin. The fact that we were able to pull off an event of a century, like, it's just insane. We had over 275,000 people that attended.
Argentron says, I became a widow at 30 and I cried every day for a year to the point I was severely dehydrated. She is either suppressing it or something is wildly wrong with her, or she literally doesn't care at all. Which to me is batshit fucking crazy. You know, I still occasionally tear up thinking about my dead dog. You know what I mean? Like, when I think about Romeo, I start to tear up from time to time. I still get that feeling of loss. This is your husband that you have children with. It's crazy.
And the stadium, overflow, Westgate, insane, you guys. And then you have, was it 100 million? Over 100. You guys that heard the gospel and all about Charlie and all about everything that you guys do and the hard work of Turning Point USA is insane. We had thousands that were registered to vote. I think we're at like over 200,000 for merch sales. Don't quote.
Oh my, yo, my husband's funeral merch is going crazy. Are we sure those are Charlie's kids? I mean, I haven't seen a DNA test. Are they JD Vance's? I don't know.
For merch sales. Don't quote me on that because I think it just keeps like bumping up like crazy. But I just wanted to say a huge thank you to the events team.
Oh, this is not AI. This is not AI. This is very clearly a human being talking. AI is getting pretty good, but there's usually something in there that kind of gives it away.
Development team, the graphic design team, the production team, just phenomenal. Their incredible work leading into the memorial. And honestly, a lot of the staff that worked on the memorial, they had 20-hour days for a week during the time of us grieving the loss of my husband. And honestly, I know several staff that didn't even sleep. Again, you guys are breathing angels. And I'm so grateful for all of you. And obviously a huge thank you to the Mosaic team. VI, you guys are 10 out of 10. Like we have the most incredible team. We just do. And you guys know that. And you guys are all a part of that. And I am so thankful. And if you do have a moment and you run into any of those staff members that you know had a role in this, and you know that they put a lot of their time and effort into it, just say thank you. There's something.
It's just so weird. It's just so weird. I'm very fair, but she talks about the death of her husband like somebody would talk about finding a new toothpaste.
Really special to be seen in moments like this, and it's not easy. I'm speaking from experience. I'm right in the trenches with you guys. And so the fact that you just, a simple thank you. I don't care if any of you have beef with each other from the past or have any issues with someone said something about this or that. Like, if you guys have any of that, please put it to rest. My husband's dead. Like, I'm not trying to be morbid, but he's dead. And it puts life into perspective of how short life is and relationships, and God puts people in your life for a reason, and it teaches you a lesson, it teaches them a lesson. So if you are going through a time where, just lay it to rest, and we are moving forward, Turning Point USA 2.0 with Charlie in our hearts, and that's what he would want.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the chat here, and you guys are responding live in the way that I felt live listening to this. It is the general tone that is off-putting. It's the laughter that is off-putting. It's, again, we are not even 2 weeks after watching your husband be assassinated. We're talking about numbers and metrics that have been hit. And my husband's dead, not to be morbid. That is a sentence that and this was not my husband, and I had no sort of the type of relationship that she had with him, that I was able to utter. Least of all, I mean, that's moving pretty quickly to the acceptance phase. Now, We know everybody grieves differently. In my imagination, I just thought she would be more upset. And I want to be clear, the overall mood of this call is extraordinarily upbeat. It's extraordinarily happy. But of course, as the CEO and chairman, she does have to address the elephant in the room, the morbid elephant in the room, if you will, because it's an obligation. You have a new CEO. The employees are working 20-hour days, but also their founder, Charlie, was publicly assassinated less than 2 weeks ago. You got to address that. And you're going to hear her address that by recapping to them that throughout these long working days, the employees were provided with ample resources while they were working. Take a listen.
I'm just grateful that while things were still in motion and moving around, that we had our leadership teams provide for you counselors, pastors. I heard there were therapy dogs. Slightly jealous that I didn't get to have any moment with a therapy dog. Breakfast. I was really adamant about making sure that we paid for your flights for your spouses to be there. That was something on my heart. You don't want to grieve alone. No one's supposed to grieve alone. It's not healthy. But I just think it's a beautiful honor that all of these benefits were made for the community to grieve and remember Charlie. And I really hope you took advantage of those in a healthy way when they were provided, because it's meant to be.
What? It's like a week later. What, did they cut it off already? Jesus. They just sold 200,000 units of merch. And she's like, listen, you missed your chance to get help. Get back to work.
For everyone for healing. Grief comes in waves. When's
the first wave going to hit, Erica? When is the first wave of grief going to hit?
Some days are going to be tougher than others, but, take it as it comes. And that's why you have your Turning Point family, and just lean on them and lean on other people in your life that will help you and pour into you and pray with you to get you through it. I say that, though, that if you do need more time to grieve, please continue to use Turning Point USA's network of counselors. We have pastors. There are so many resources for you. If you do need additional time off, please talk to your director about using paid time off for that. And again, it's not easy, but again, grief is hard. Otherwise, honestly, Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action, full steam ahead, you guys. Charlie would want us to get back to work, and that's what we're doing. And that's what we did with the memorial. And I'm so honored and proud of each and every one of you, because that's what we're going to do in his honor and in his name. We have so much to do, which is exciting. Charlie in heaven is like, you guys thought you had a busy schedule then, just you wait. And he's doing some awesome things with Jesus in heaven right now, but there's so much work to be done. Since his assassination, we have 100,000 chapter requests. We have 300,000 new donors. That is a blessing in itself. Again, not normal. All God.
Everybody knows that Erica Trump is weird. Everybody can feel it, and they can feel the sociopath. In fact, it's so obvious that it's now one of the most popular new drag acts in Los Angeles is making fun of Erica Kirk. I showed this yesterday, but I got to show you again.
On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." On the cross, our Savior.
What do you want to say to the other people?
Chad, I need to collab with Lauren. Or, who I think should collab with Lauren? Theo. That would be fucking lit. That
are putting these lies out into the world right now. Stop. That's it. What do you want to say to the other people that are putting these lies out into the world right now? Stop.
That's it. I think we have 50,000 plus hat orders to fulfill. I mean, I'm saying these numbers.
I'm sorry, chat, but if your spouse dies, I don't think you should be getting updates on the hat orders. I'm sorry. If the father of your children dies, I don't think you should be a week later going, the hat orders are crazy. How long before she can announce? I mean, like, bro. Guys, I know it's against Raya's terms of service, but no, I'm kidding.
Because
did you know Erica Kirk was a CIA? Was it a CIA counterterrorism video with the former CIA director years before she met Charlie Kirk? I did hear about that. Yeah,
it puts
the alleged father of her children. Yes,
that we're not just sitting and thinking and looking at the wall, being like, "What do we do?" Like that. There is so much to do. You have over 20,000 AmFest registrations.
There's a lot happening there, and none of it is what I would be expecting to happen there. So basically what the employees said to me was that they got onto this call and everyone's exhausted, everyone's been working, and they pull off this massive memorial. And then there's kind of this approach where it's like, well, if you guys need paid time off, like Charlie's in heaven dancing, wanting you to work harder. He's just up there like, you better work, but you can use the paid time off that you have earned, by the way, if you need to grieve more. But imagine you're the employee and you're like, okay, well, this is his wife saying this. So am I weird? Would I be like, I would be pretty weird if I needed to take time off and his wife is saying she's full steam ahead. That's the mentality that they had. Like, how are we supposed, like, are we weird for wanting to grieve? Is that not the vibe? How can we take paid time off when Erica, his wife, is saying full steam? It's very strange. It is even kind of using this idea of Charlie being in heaven, looking down, and the laughter. I don't know. I feel like the rest of you. I feel uncomfortable. And of course, now what we're going to listen to is her pivot to the future vision, because that's what the bulk of this is about. And it's going to consist of the notebooks that I keep telling you the public is never going to see. Apparently, what I gather from this is that Charlie presented to the staff a vision for 2025, but Erica is going to say that there was a vision beyond that, all the way to 2030. And there's a project 2030. And then she's going to kind of want to say that she's happy, but then catch herself realizing that that would be kind of weird to say that she's happy. Take a listen.
The prophetic mind of my husband was that he always planned for the future. You guys are obviously aware of
This is why I like being on the left, because nobody would say shit like this. Like, if you said shit like this, people would be like, shut, you're fucking weird. But on the right, they have all this like mystical, like, you know, bullshit where they say shit like this and they at least pretend to believe it. And it's so fucking creepy. It's so fucking creepy. Yes, guys. God wanted Charlie Kirk to get his fucking neck gouged out by a guy who had a crush on a trans woman out of Utah. That was all in the plan. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? God works in mysterious ways. Anyway, did you know God wanted you to... Charlie had to die so that I could sell 50,000 TP USA hats.
Vision 2025, but Charlie was also working on Vision 2030 in the weeks leading up to September 10th. And he was working really closely with Justin. And that's why Justin had been appointed the role of COO, because he was literally, I remember phone calls when Charlie and I would take our night walks, and it would be 10 o'clock at night. And him and Justin would just be talking about the plans. I was aware of the plans. I have his journals that are aware of the plans. Like, there is no confusion of what's to come. And I want to give you guys that reassurance that it's full steam ahead. And the board and I...
Charlie Kirk, he actually wrote plans till 2100, guys. And it's going to be remarkably topical. It's because he predicted the way that the world was going to go in every election from here until 2100. He knew it. He even knew the candidates, some of which are not even born yet. Just know that it's exactly what I want you to do at all times.
I are working with Justin and the executive leadership teams to make sure that all of those plans come into effect 2030 and beyond. But I, again, am so grateful for all of you. I'm so proud of all of you. You honor my husband so well. All of you do. And it's weird to say I'm excited. I really hesitate saying that. It's really hard for me to say that. It's a really weird thing to say. But I think it comes from a space of peace, knowing that God's using this and we're humbly witnessing the gospel in real time.
I don't know what to say. She doesn't want to say she's happy. I don't want to say I'm happy, but where it comes from, I'm going to explain the happiness that I feel. It comes from peace because we're witnessing the gospel in real time. All of that, all of this makes my skin crawl. It genuinely makes my skin crawl. I'm going to go ahead and say that. You can go find your commentator who's going to tell you everybody grieves differently. Nope, that is less than 2 weeks after Charlie was publicly assassinated. That doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right to, I would say, the majority of people, or that doesn't feel right. Knowing that they're joyous at dinners. And again, this is when people who did not know Charlie could not stop crying and were sending me emails, who've never met Charlie, who didn't even know what Turning Point USA was because they watched his assassination, could not stop crying and pull themselves together. That is not the emotion that we're getting there. Like I said,
oh, fuck, man. This is another thing about conservatives. They are messy, judgmental assholes. And like, I gotta be honest, it would never cross my mind to be this. I would never like look at someone grieving and go like, they're not grieving exactly the way I want them to grieve. But it is fucking hilarious to see a conservative doing it to another conservative. You can kind of understand why she's so popular, because the entire act of doing what she's doing is kind of ghoulish. But honestly, she's kind of right. Like, what the fuck is Erica Kirk? Like, there's not even like, her voice never cracks. There's not a moment of emotion. She's just like, the merch sales are blowing up.
Entire call is upbeat, and the portions where we are even speaking about grief, it feels like an obligation. Like, you know, hey, you got the dogs, and what Charlie wants is for you to work now. And that is how the employees that I've spoken to who were on that call, that's how they felt. My assumption, by the way, why I'm addressing this now is because my assumption, watching everything that's gone on, my assumption was that she really was trying to figure things out. I assumed in the silence, right? She wasn't doing interviews then. I assumed she couldn't get out of bed. I assumed that she couldn't pick her head up. And I felt that people were being unfair in judging outfits and in judging whether or not they liked how her hair was done. I said, okay, she's speaking at the memorial. We expect her to speak at the memorial event. I felt the public was being unfair. Now that we're kind of getting more on the inside of the organization, the now fired employees are telling me, no, it was quite the opposite. She was in the office every day with Stacey Sheridan, running around with Stacey Sheridan, taking phone calls with Stacey Sheridan. That's like the head of the fundraising for Turning Point USA. So what I had imagined in my head was happening simply was not so. Something is not right. That's what I would like to say. That call, the timing, the energy of that call does not feel right to me. This, I don't know what's happening, but I think we are inching closer to figuring out what's going on. That's for sure. And we will have more for you in the coming weeks. It also led me to another stunning discovery that we have made in large part thanks to internet sleuths. There was a lot of media panicking when we discussed Project Looking Glass. We discussed the fact that Charlie was indeed a gifted child who went to a literal children's school for the gifted. I told you guys also that street lights used to go out when he ran. There's a whole term for that. Apparently, a lot of people go through that. We saw that in the comment section. Now, what does it all mean? On my episode, I posited that the military was keeping its eye on quote unquote gate children, gifted children, by different names, but, terming it more broadly, children that go through the GATE program. That Charlie's life may have therefore been a literal Truman Show once they realized that he was extraordinarily gifted. So let me remind you that when Charlie was having these visions about his death back in 2018, he specifically told me that he knew from the moment that he began Turning Point USA that he was going to die young. I'm going to re-show you this text message again so you can see it. Literally, he writes, since the beginning of Turning Point USA, I knew in my gut that I might get wiped out at any time. I cannot explain it, but I dream about it all the time, like all the time. Not really afraid of it, but I'm just telling you what I know to be true. I'm not sure I'm going to live, begins with, I'm not sure I'm going to live to see the end of this revolution.
I'm not sure if I will live to see the end of this revolution. I believe you are the peace God meant me to meet that will finish the fight. Is he trying to Riz? Is this him trying to Riz? Is he going, I'm going to be killed any day now, so we should spend some time alone together while I still have time? Is that what he was trying to do?
But interesting that he says since the beginning.
This is like a sailor at port going over to a girl and be like, I must leave soon. And this is true love. And I don't want to go the rest of my life regretting this night. And what if I'm killed on the waves? Let us live exactly fully right now.
Of Turning Point USA. We should probably therefore go back to the founding story of Turning Point USA. The story the public knows, and the story that I was told, is that Charlie was this teenager, didn't get into West Point. Anyway, he's speaking at a conference where a man named Bill Montgomery happened to be in attendance. He has since passed. I've met Bill Montgomery. He's very kind to me. And my point in bringing this up is not to throw any shade on him, but because I'm now interested in this origin story. Anyways, he's in attendance. He's absolutely floored at Benedictine University. When Charlie speaks, he immediately knew that he was sort of looking at a future president. This is an article, I think it was done in The Atlantic back in, it doesn't matter what year. Anyways, it reads in The Atlantic, Montgomery was at Benedictine University in western Chicago suburb of Lisle, Illinois, for the college's Youth Government Day in May of 2012. The slate of speakers put the kids to sleep, he told the National Journal. But when Kirk took the floor, the energy in the room completely changed. The kids weren't sleeping anymore, and their attention was wrapped on. Inspired, Montgomery went up to him after his speech and told...
I don't know about you, chat, but when I'm a 76-year-old rich man, I like to go up to 18-year-old boys and be enraptured with them. He felt something. He felt something. Montgomery's pants suddenly felt tighter.
Told him, as only a man 50 years senior can say, that he needed to delay college to pursue a higher calling. I don't know you, Montgomery recalled saying, but you need to start an organization to reach out to young people with your message.
He wants to reach out to young... Montgomery felt, as he was enraptured with Charlie Kirk, that he wanted to reach out to young people. And he reached out with him many, many times over the years.
A month after Montgomery met Kirk, the duo launched Turning Point USA. I want you to hold on to that phrase, I don't know you, but... Again, that's the same story that I was told. So I was a bit surprised to learn that there may be a larger story here. Now, Bill Montgomery was Air Force. He's in the Air Force Reserves. Bill Montgomery also happened to be from Lincoln, Nebraska. Getting into that, one of those Egyptian plane stops. A lot of these people are tied to Lincoln, Nebraska that are in this story. Saving that for another day. Now, not much is known about what specifically Bill Montgomery did during his time in the military, but we do know that he moved to the Chicago area thereafter, which obviously in the area where Charlie's X-Men school was. The X-Men school, I just like to call it that, was actually called Creative Children's Academy. It opened in 1982 for the academically gifted from preschool up into the 8th grade. In 1999, it changed its name officially to Quest Academy. It tells us on its website, or I'm sorry, in a past article, that it receives corporate and private funding from who we don't know. I would like to know what corporations funded that academy. What we do know is that it's a stone's throw from Northrop Grumman, the massive aerospace and defense company that has extended.
I love, like, this is so much fun because the way that the kind of like schizo right is moving, this is actually going to enhance the eventual left-wing realignment of this country. Because the more people are repeating shit like Northrop Grumman is bad, the more people are repeating that Israel is bad, the weaker the resistance to the left will be. And like that creates cognitive dissonance, because the support for Trump, and when they see Trump supporting Israel and Trump supporting Northrop Grumman, it creates internal conflict. And that's how change occurs, chat, because these people will become more and more socially alienated from Trumpism and the Republican Party. This is actually how you get people to change their minds, is this kind of weird schizo behavior.
Federal contracts dating back to World War II. Just put that fact in the back of your mind. It may mean nothing at all, but I just want to say that because it came up when I was researching the general area in Palatine, Illinois. Now, the Children's Creative Academy, I should tell you, was founded by a woman named Helene Bartz. Her husband is a Reverend Robert Bartz of Arlington Heights. Helene Bartz. Now, a tip that I received, and I was able to confirm, is that Helene Bartz was actually good friends with Bill Montgomery and his wife, Edith Walker Montgomery. She actually goes by her last name, Edith Walker. The person claims that Edith Walker, who I've since learned emigrated from Germany after World War II, and I can't really find much else about her, became and this is correct, an adolescent psychiatric nurse. So she was a psychiatric nurse to the youth, and that she was actually the person that started the school with Helene Bartz. And that has since virtually been wiped from public record. But that's what you're missing, is that these people all knew each other. The person claims that Bill and his wife and a certain Robert Flood, who is in Dan Flood's family, this is what they claim, and I have since found this person, said that they knew each other since before the school even got started. They were all working for this evangelical company, evangelical sales force known as the Shackley Corporation. It's still in existence today. I'm going to give you a bit of information. The Shackley Corporation was the first company that ever created a multivitamin in America. It grew to be a massive, basically a middle-level management.
I mean, everybody knows that this was actually another defeat of the left by Clinton, which was the deregulation of the food supplement market in America, where basically most of this shit, it doesn't work and there's no evidence for it, but it makes billions of dollars. So people are out there spending billions of dollars advertising it. And they are major supporters of the Republican Party. A lot of the unregulated dietary supplement shit, that was a category that was created as a deregulation model by the Clinton administration working with Republicans. So she's just really, see, the thing about Candace is she's stupid. So she doesn't understand that this is actually where a lot of right-wing money comes from. A lot of right-wing money comes from multi-level marketing, aka legalized pyramid schemes, and this dietary supplement shit, and then the televangelism Christian scam shit. That's a lot of the support. And then of course oil and gas, fossil fuel industry. So those are kind of the major financial supporters of the right. And of course car dealerships. Yeah, car dealerships are literally locally granted monopolies that actually have no utility whatsoever, which they make a lot of Republican donors a lot of money.
Corporation, which, like I said, commanded this evangelical sales force. Shackley was basically described as a religious fervor that was sweeping the nation for nutrition. It was started by a man who preached the gospel of nutrition, buy our products, but also the gospel is what this is really about. And it grew to be a massive company that engaged in a 25-year contract with NASA. You're like, what? Yeah, for supplements that they could take to space. Now, it sounds to me like some good old-fashioned government money laundering, but sure, if you are like Skylar and believe in the moon landing, sure, maybe you need some vitamins up there. Now, working off of this tip, I was indeed, like I said, able to confirm that Helene Bartz, so again, to give you these names, Helene Bartz started the school, and I confirmed that she did indeed, prior to, worked at Shackley. She actually ran the Shackley Center in Arlington Heights. I'm having a lot of trouble, and the reason why I'm putting this out there is I'm having trouble learning more about Bill and Edith. Where did Bill serve in the military? Why specifically did he move to Chicago? Where in Germany is Edith Walker from? Who was her first husband? Because Walker was clearly not her first name when she moved here. Where exactly was she a psychiatric adolescent nurse? Again, using her full name, Edith Marie Walker, in Arlington Heights, where Charlie grew up. Did she see Charlie? Is that a plausibility? I would say yes. And I know that Charlie told me the story that they wanted to drug him when he was a kid, but his mom said, no, my kid's a genius. And instead, because his mother refused, they instead put him into this special school. Again, this is an investigation, maybe it leads nowhere, but this is sure as hell interesting enough for me to put it out there. Mostly because the idea that everything we know about Turning Point's origin story could also be incorrect is equal parts terrifying and...
She's like, Charlie Kirk, my close friend, he was actually still psychologically tortured in an X-Men school. Fuck, I love Candace Owens, dude. This is so cool. This is so fucking cool. We gotta let her keep cooking, huh? We gotta let her keep cooking. Actually, Erica Kirk was his psychiatric nurse at a mental institution that Charlie Kirk was at. And I guess they programmed him to want to date her instead of Candace? Is that right? Like, what's going on? This is OG Alex Jones shit for sure. I mean, you might be right that Cav, you might be right that it's even better than that.
Fascinating. It would give new meaning to the idea of his life being the Truman Show. I think that's fair to state that. If you have any more information, please message us. Send us an email at moretips@CandaceOwens.com. Maybe your research will be better than mine, but I am particularly interested in Edith Walker Montgomery, and where she came from in Germany and who her family was all very fascinating and interesting time in America indeed. Anyway, we'll take a brief break here before we come back and give you an update on the internet sleuths after I gave you that message, which sure read like a threat from a Christian Zionist. All right, you guys, Nimi Skincare is why I rarely, if ever, switch my skincare routine around. There's a lot of pressure, especially at the start of a new...
Let me break out of this to sell my skincare routine. I mean, she does kind of look like glass, chat. She does kind of look like, it looks like it was working. It does look like it's working. Not that I'm endorsing it, but it does seem like it might be working.
Away to go to puretalk.com/Owens and you'll get 50% off your first month. Again, that's puretalk.com/Owens to make the switch to Pure Talk. Okay, let me connect some dots for you here. I see somebody in the chat.
Please connect those dots. Please connect the dots for me. Oh God, yes, please. Please connect the dots. This is fucking based.
First off, you guys are freaking out about listening to that call. It makes everybody uncomfortable. That is normal. And now we are going to have to deal with the next psychological operation that tells us that it's wrong that we listened to the call. Goodbye. We don't care. Something's not right. We sense it's not right at Turning Point USA. And it feels like the people trying to get to the truth are being penalized. Now, I do want to say to you what is particularly I found to be interesting about this Bill Montgomery angle and this Shackley Corporation and their contract with NASA. And you've got to go way back. You got to go way back to my episode on the moon landing and why I don't believe the moon landing happened. Because Operation Paperclip, which somebody has called out in the chat already, Operation Paperclip was when we went over and we got these quote unquote scientist Nazis from Germany, and we brought him here, and we're supposed to go, oh, that's all fine that the CIA did this because now we have the Apollo program, we went to the moon. But what if we didn't go to the moon? What actually did we bring these scientists over for? These are the questions that I ask myself because I don't believe we went to the moon, but I do believe we brought over these people and these families, and I think they were demented people and they were sick people, and we bury Project Monarch, which was the precursor to MK Ultra. Brigitte Macron's trigger in the lawsuit. Don't bring up MK Ultra, the precursor being Project Monarch, where they were intentionally harming children, trying to sort of abuse people into compliance, mind control. So that's interesting. That is interesting. And now we are seeing a bunch of people, and I really do believe that these are the White Walkers in our society. Like, these people are among us, that people are mind-controlled slaves, literally, which was the entire purpose of Project Monarch. If you follow my idea, the moon landing didn't happen, my fact. If you want to follow the facts, the moon landing didn't happen. And that would basically mean the CIA was bringing over perverts, like just bringing over a ton of perverts. And I'd like a list of their names.
I mean, the thing is that CIA is notorious for allying with pedophiles. It's not, it is not something that is hidden. In fact, it's in their training manuals. They like pedophiles. The CIA prefers to work with pedophiles because pedophilia is considered to be one of the worst crimes you can commit. And so they have unbreakable blackmail over someone. If you need someone to betray their country or murder their fellow citizens, the CIA hires pedophiles to do it because they're the only people they can count on actually carrying it out and not having a last minute, twang of conscience. Because if they don't, then the CIA will make sure they get arrested and put in prison forever for being a pedophile. So the CIA actually prefers to work with pedophiles. So a lot of America's intelligence elites are actually pedophiles themselves. And it's something that we kind of know from so long of it being exposed. And many of the largest child porn distribution sites are actually FBI honeypots. So they're continually kind of proliferating, spreading it, creating networks of pedophiles, protecting the networks of pedophiles. I mean, one of the most notorious pedophiles in all of Afghanistan was one of our closest allies. Let me see if I can bring it up. Hold on, give me a second. I know it seems like I'm saying something extreme, so I need to have evidence for it. Obviously, I wouldn't want you to just think I'm crazy. This isn't the right article. Hold on, chat. This one. No, this isn't it either. Wait a minute. No, this isn't it. This isn't the one. Wait. I think this is the article. Yeah. Here it is. Let's see here. Hold on. Did I frick the wrong article? This might be the wrong one. Yeah, hold on. Maybe it's hold on. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it was this one. Sorry, chat. Sorry, what? The practice is so widespread that at least one of the 2014 Afghan presidential candidates was a one-time CIA-backed warlord, Gul Agha Shirazi, who was widely accused of being a pedophile who keeps Baka Bazi boys. Now, if you don't know what Baka Bazi boy is, a Bazi boy is a little boy who's a sex slave. Now, notice that he is CIA-backed. Now, the reason why the Taliban won is because they vowed to fight this. That's why the Taliban won. Now, if you're ever like, why did the Taliban win? Well, because the Taliban was the only group that was seen to be fighting this. The American policy of treating child sexual abuse as a cultural issue has alienated the villages whose children are being preyed upon. The pitfalls of the policy emerged clearly as American Special Forces soldiers began to form Afghan local police militias to hold villages that American forces had retaken from the Taliban in 2010 and 2011. By the summer of 2011, Captain Quinn and Sergeant Martland, both Green Berets of their second tour in northern Kunduz province, began to receive dire complaints that the Afghan local police units they were training and supporting. First, they were told one of the militia commanders raped 14 and 15-year-old girl whom he had spotted work in the fields. Captain Quinn informed the provincial police chief, who soon levied punishment. He got 1 day in jail, and then she was forced to marry him, Mr. Quinn said. When he asked the superior officer what more he could do, he was told that he had done well to bring it up with local officials, but that there was nothing else to be done. We're being praised for doing the right thing, and the guy just got away with raping a 14-year-old girl, Mr. Quinn said. Village elders grew more upset at the predatory behavior of American-backed commanders. After each case, Captain Quinn would gather the Afghan commanders and lecture them on human rights. Soon another commander absconded with his men's wages. Mr. Quinn said he later heard that the commander had spent the money on dancing boys. That's a euphemism for boys they rape. Another commander murdered his 12-year-old daughter in a so-called honor killing for having kissed a boy. There were no repercussions, Mr. Quinn recalled. In September 2011, an Afghan woman, visibly bruised, showed up at an American base with her son, who was limping. One of the Afghan police commanders in the area, Abdul Rahman, had abducted the boy and forced him to become a sex slave, chained to his bed, the woman explained. When she sought her son's return, she herself was beaten. Her son had eventually been released, but she was afraid it would happen again, she told the Americans on the base. She explained that because her son was a good-looking kid, he was a status symbol coveted by local commanders, recalled Mr. Quinn, who did not speak to the woman directly, but was told about her visit when he returned to the base from a mission later that day. So Captain Quinn summoned Abdul Rahman and confronted him about what he had done. The police commander acknowledged that it was true, but brushed it off. The American officer began to lecture about how you are held to a higher standard if you are working with U.S. forces and people expect more of you. The commander began to laugh. I picked him up and threw him on the ground, Mr. Quinn said. Sergeant Martland joined in. He said, I did this to make sure that the message was understood, that if he went back to the boy, that it was not going to be tolerated, Mr. Quinn recalled. Now, the reason why this is an article in the New York Times is because he was forced to quit the military. The CIA showed up and they forced him out of the military. There is a disagreement over the extent of the commander's injuries. Mr. Quinn said they were not serious, which was corroborated by an Afghan official who saw the commander afterward. The commander, Abdul Rahman, was killed 2 years ago in a Taliban ambush. Do you see why the Taliban won? Sergeant Martlin, who received a Bronze Star for valor for his actions during a Taliban ambush, wrote in a letter to the Army this year that he and Mr. Quinn felt that morally we could no longer stand by and allow our ALP to commit atrocities, referring to the Afghan local police. The father of Lance Corporal Buckley believes the policy of looking away from sexual abuse was a factor in his son's death, and he was filed a lawsuit to press the Marine Corps for more information about it. Lance Corporal Buckley and 2 other Marines were killed in 2012 by one of the large entourage of boys living at their base with an Afghan police commander named Sarwar Jan. So not only was he raping boys, they were openly and notoriously rocking around. Again, this is America. This is America, and this is what we actually do. Mr. Jean had long had a bad reputation. In 2010, 2 Marine officers managed to persuade the Afghan authorities to arrest him following a litany of abuses, including corruption, support for the Taliban, and child abduction. But just 2 years later, the police commander was back with a different unit. Lance Corporal Buckley had noticed that a large entourage of T-boys, domestic servants who were sometimes pressed into sexual slavery, had arrived with Mr. Jan and moved into the same barracks, 1 floor below the Marines. He told his father about it during his final call home. Lance Corporal, the warning was never heeded. About 2 weeks later, one of the older boys of Mr. Jan, around 17 years old, grabbed a rifle and killed Lance Corporal Buckley and other Marines. Lance Corporal Buckley's father still agonizes about whether the killing occurred because of the sexual abuse by an American ally. As far as the young boys are concerned, the Marines are allowing it to happen, and so they're guilty by association, Mr. Buckley said. They don't know our Marines are sick to their stomachs. Again, so if it bothers you, then you should abolish the CIA. If this bothers you, you need to abolish the CIA. But what conservatives will tell you is, what's a little bit of child rape when we're talking about protecting capitalism? That's what conservatives will tell you. The world's unfair. We have to protect capitalism. It is what it is. The one American service member who was punished in the investigation that followed was Major Bresler, who had sent the email warning about Mr. Jan, his lawyers said. In one Major Bresler's hearing, Marine Corps lawyer warned that information about the police commander's penchant for abusing boys might be classified. The Marine Corps has initiated proceedings to discharge Major Bresler. So Major Bresler was another Marine officer who was trying to stop the rape of little boys. So they kicked him out of the military. Mr. Jan appears to have moved on to a higher-ranking police command in the same province. In an interview, he denied keeping boys as sex slaves or having any relationship with the boy who killed the 3 Marines. No, it's all untrue, Mr. Jan said. But people who know him say he still suffers from a, quote, toothache problem, a euphemism here for child sexual abuse. And, like, this is not a secret. These were our allies. That's why they lost, by the way. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it here. A former Special Forces officer, Captain Dan Quinn, who beat up an Afghan commander for keeping a boy chained to his bed as a sex slave, said at the time he had been relieved of his command as a result. We're putting people into power who would do things that were worse than the Taliban did, said Captain Quinn, who has left the military. Sergeant First Class Charles Martland, a highly decorated Green Beret, was forced out of the military after beating up an Afghan local police commander in Kunduz who was a child rapist. Now, the only reason we know about these stories is because these guys came and spoke out about it.
And I am very interested in how much NASA comes up in a lot of the stuff that I am researching. Now, this brings me to the most savage internet thing I've ever seen happen. Credit to @BraveReport. Some of these smaller accounts that just savage. I showed you guys this message. I said that Turning Point's not going to come out and tell you who wrote this message. This Zionist who is spelling, like you guys noted, God, putting a dash there. You guys are like, that's not how Christians would write this. It turns out that, well, Lori Cardoza Moore, the Brave Report pulled up as an evangelical Zionist who said that she then learned later on that she's Jewish, but she is still an evangelical. She's a maniac. I mean, there's no question she's a maniac. And virtually everything that was said in this text message was also a rant that Lori decided to do live on the internet pertaining to Tucker's totally sensible speech. Listen to Lori Cardoza Moore rant in her car.
Taliban and the CIA are satanic. Whoa. Listen, I am anti-Taliban. I think the Taliban, they're hyper-conservative, religious fundamentalists. I don't agree with them. But the facts are that they ended the production of opioids in Afghanistan after they came to power. That's just a fact. So God knows how many Americans' lives were saved because the Taliban won in Afghanistan. A lot. A lot of Americans' lives have probably, I would bet you more American lives have been saved because the Taliban won and stopped producing opioids. And unironically, ever since America was defeated in Afghanistan, opioid deaths have been declining in the US. Unironically, the US losing in Afghanistan is saving tens of thousands of lives a year. Not from being not in combat, from a reduction in the supply of opioids.
Carlson, with his mocking voice and his mocking laughter, they were horrified by what they saw. I had 3 couples reach out to me who had been to the Turning Point USA conference. And this was in Tampa a couple weeks ago. They called me and said they were horrified by what they saw. Horrified. They saw Tucker Carlson get up and act like another crazy person talking.
So, and by the way, this is true, chat. We left Afghanistan at near the end of 2021, and the peak of opioid deaths was 2022, and it's been declining ever since then. Just think about that for a second.
Condemning Israel, praising Qatar with his mocking voice and his mocking laughter. So Tucker, right after him comes Michelle Bachmann. Michelle has 5 minutes to make an argument for why we have to stand with Israel to these young people at the USA. When she starts talking in that conference about supporting Israel and why America should stand with Israel, the people in the audience start booing her. I spoke with her personally. She said 10% in the room got up and walked out on her. That is shameful. Then Charlie Kirk. This is his event. He's responsible for what people are saying and doing. Does he get up and condemn Tucker or correct Tucker for what he said about Israel and how dangerous Qatar is to us? No. Did Charlie get up and defend Michelle Bachmann? Did he condemn the people that got up and walked out on her and that booed her? Did he say why we stand with Israel, we support Israel? No, he didn't.
No.
That tells us everything we need to know.
Yeah, Christian Zionism, man. Sell your stocks immediately on Christian. You gotta absolutely just sell. As this is going down. You just see, this is obviously, it's almost like they just hired a bunch of actors to pretend to be Christians. That's the vibe that you start to get when you realize this is the only thing they care about. This is all they care about. And they will rant and they will rave and they will scream at you. And in case you are wondering why so many of them seem to have these extensive acting backgrounds, you can look no further than Lori Cardoza Moore, because these internet sleuths aren't playing around. The DCIA, the Decentralized Intelligence Agency, is moving quicker. And they found that, yeah, that's what Lori's background is in, acting and for romance hotlines and things of the sort. So maybe she was just cast as a Christian. Take a look at this.
Are you over 30 and single? You can find love and romance right here on the telephone on the Romance Hotline. Just call this number and all you have to do is listen. You'll hear recorded messages from exciting singles over 30 looking for love and romance.
The Romance Hotline, 1-900-909-8000. $2 first minute, 45 cents additional minutes.
Why not call now? All you have to do is listen.
And she's not the only one, by the way, who was an actor. And this is a person that I'm quite interested in, which is her husband. She is married to a man named Stanley Clark Moore. He has an Air Force background, also went to go work for NASA, if his Wikipedia is to be believed, for a little bit. But little else is known about him other than the fact that he grew up on Air Force bases, that he graduated from high school in Texas, Humbly, Texas. Which Air Force bases? Who is his father? I got to know who everybody's daddy is. You guys know me. I got to know. If I don't know who your granddad is, I don't trust you. If you're in Texas in the 60s especially, I got to know who your granddad is. If your granddad was involved with the military, you got to tell me right now, who's your granddad? I need to know who Stanley Clark's father was. So internet sleuths get at it. Which Air Force base? Message us more tips at CandaceOwens.com. I feel like
my grandfather was in the Royal Air Force, chat. He was originally born in Scotland and he came over to the United States as a teenager. And then when the Nazis invaded Poland, he traveled up to Canada and he volunteered for the Royal Air Force in 1939. And he went back to fight the Nazis while America was still neutral. My grandfather died in a knife fight in his late 20s in Little Italy in Cleveland. That's the most Italian thing I've ever heard in my life.
This is important somehow. And there's just a lot of military ties in all of this everywhere. I mean, even because we're kind of everywhere, someone messaged me and let me know that Turning Point is, shooting their Super Bowl commercial here in Tennessee, in Nashville. And they're working with this company where the CEO is from Lockheed Martin. It's just everywhere. It's military connections everywhere at all times. And I do kind of feel like the military cult has been in power since LBJ helped murder JFK, set him up, and then cleaned house and put in his guys in the military. That's how I feel. Anyways, not at the bottom, obviously, tons of brave American men and women who serve, but serve who? That's the question. Anyway, just wanted to very quickly comment, because people were pinging me on this, about Kanye taking out a full page in the Wall Street Journal to apologize. Kanye's apology also sat down with Vanity Fair, or answered questions for Vanity Fair about this apology, whether or not he means it. He speaks about his bipolar episode, said that he is on new meds, that 2025 or 2024 was a tough year for him, and that this is not a PR move, that he is sorry to the people that he hurt. I just want to just broadly say this, because this comes up all the time. There's always this, Candace, God, Ye. I love Ye. He's like a brother to me. I am never going to turn my back on Ye. I'm here for the Ye of all seasons. He and I agree on many things, disagree on many things at all times. If he wants to apologize to people that he specifically has hurt, he is welcome to do that. And of course, for people that are now trying to construe this and attach and put, Candace, this has nothing to do with my viewpoints whatsoever on Israel, people who mass murder children. So I support Ye in everything that he does, and if I don't support him in anything, I will speak to him directly. So I just wanted to state that, because people were asking me, what do you think about this? It's Ye. Ye is always doing something, whatever he wants to do. And the reason why he and I get on so well is because Ye's got to be Ye and Candace has got to be Candace. It's just how it works. Anyway, we'll take a brief break, and then I will get to some of your messages as I see the chat lighting up with that regarding that call that we just played, that Zoom call. All right, you guys, there is a war on truth right now. You feel
third paid ad. God damn, she's making the money. She's making some money off this thing. Crazy.
Now it's time for shameless self-promotion. If you want to support our independent work, you guys can head to CandaceOwens.com. We have new merch up on the website. We have also merged our subscription tiers into one Club Candace tier, something that we wanted to do for the new year, as you've been able to. Wrote, didn't Erica Kirk say that no one can talk bad about her TPUSA family, but then she fires them without a reason? Make that make sense.
How the fuck is she firing TPUSA people? They're making more money than ever. That's crazy. I mean, she is smart, though, that TPUSA, now that Charlie Kirk is dead, will likely fall off. Unless they create some like very large trusts that are making like investment income, like TPUSA is toast.
Didn't make any sense. And my general opinion now is that she is, this has been my opinion since we caught Andrew Colvett with the Paramount Tactical tweet, holding it that she's orchestrating a lot behind the scenes and keeping her hands clean. I think that became very obvious to me in that moment. And then going backward and finding she's not misspeaking. I mean, sometimes she's just saying a lie. Right? I lived in China. No, I never lived in China. Then you go backward and you go, I never dated anybody. And people are constantly trying to clean that up. It's like, you don't say I didn't date for 5 years if you did date for 5 years. And then they're like, well, no, just meant in New York City. Like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, that just makes no sense. If you had a boyfriend the whole time you were in New York City, but he happened to live in Philadelphia, you don't say I didn't date for 5 years. That's not what you say. You could say I didn't date anybody from New York City, but I'm kind of getting tired of everyone like extending things and not just calling out something that's just not true. It's just not true. Becca writes, when Erica talks, she is so boring. She has not had that special thing that Charlie had, and it will be the end of Turning Point USA if they don't make a change fast. She is unlikable on the surface because she acts elite. Goodbye, Turning Point USA. Well, it's interesting that you say that, because that, as I told you, was the feedback that a lot of these employees who got fired had. They had no access to her. It didn't feel like Charlie. Charlie felt accessible. They knew what his vision was. He was that way. Genuinely, he was that way. He was certainly not an elitist in any way whatsoever. Like I said, dude didn't even want to buy even when he had the money, just buy himself a suit, go to a tailor and things of that nature, because he wanted to be a good steward of Turning Point USA, the money that's coming in, because obviously the majority of the money comes from small pocket donors. And it seems like every effort that they are exerting is to go after people who are trying to find out the truth about what happened to Charlie Kirk. That doesn't make sense. You can't make that make sense. You can't make a call like that make sense to people. Jay Berger writes, don't forget MLK started college at 15 and had a faith-based movement by the time that he was 21. I actually did not know all of that. I'm ashamed of myself. Coffee Addicted Mama Bear writes, I ordered your book the second you said you were shipping to Canada. Oh, yep, make him a sandwich.
The most embarrassing type of person in all of history is a Canadian conservative who LARPs as an American. That has to be the most, like, spiritually on the entire planet, that must be the most cuckolded position you can have. And there's a lot of them, like millions of them. It's crazy.
We now ship to Canada. It was truly eye-opening.
Worse than European MAGA LARPers? Yes, because America is literally threatening Canada as we speak.
Sure you had a good time reading it. It's very funny to go backward and to realize.
I heard they showed the Melania movie on a plane. People started walking out. Canadian conservatives are actually a fifth column. Yes, they are. They're actually, the term for it is a quisling. That is the term for it. Canadian conservatives are quislings. Basically, a quisling is a type of person who invites invasion so that they can be the collaborator of the occupier. So that's what Canadian conservatives are. They are quislings. Quisling sounds like a game show, dude. It's named after a Norwegian guy who did it in World War II. He was the leader of the Norwegian, like, collaborators when they invaded Norway. And so for all time, that type of traitor, somebody who invites invasion so they could be the collaborator, is a quisling. Am I a quisling for China? No. Because if China invaded America, it wouldn't be to occupy it. It would be to liberate it.
Where feminism...
I'm just kidding. China is never going to attack America on American soil.
...has gone. It's just very funny and sad and weird. Continue. I am impatiently waiting for my conspiracy girly cup. It shall be there. Your constant devotion to truth, your loyalty.
My conspiracy girly mug. And they have a Klarna. Imagine being a person who's like, they get a Klarna for their Candace Owens conspiracy girly purchase, and like that's what tips them over into bankruptcy. I had to buy the $18, conspiracy girly mug.
Loyalty and your strength are truly inspiring. Go Max, girl. Man, I should just read your comment. I didn't even have to do shameless self-promotion because your comment was so kind and you promoted everything that we have. But this is definitely great. It's a great gift. You should have the conspiracy girl mug. Sorry. For the fellas, you should buy the conspiracy girly mug for a lady in your life that you care about, because Valentine's Day is around the corner, obviously, and that's what you should be doing. So order it now, today. We need it sold out. Adriana, New Jersey writes, Erica plays a role that she thinks men want. She did not have the same values as Charlie and now is pedaling back. The comment in the New York Times was, who needs a man? Being a single mother is okay. That is the opposite of Charlie's views. I can't justify that comment. To refer to it as the least traumatizing thing is, I think, what bothers me. The least traumatizing. It's traumatizing, full stop. It should traumatize you, full stop. Joseph Brown writes, Candace Owens. Curious Joel writes, geoengineering has become really fake and gay. The sidewalks at my apartments were covered in ice. It was like...
I feel like we should be arresting people and having them do community service by helping us build solar arcs in like the Arizona desert in July.
Styrofoam. I could walk to my work on them, no problem. The ice literally had a grip. HAARP must be drunk. We could speak a lot about geoengineering, and I believe that it would lead us to NASA's doorsteps, because I don't think they've been trying to get to the moon.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Climate change is ridiculous because God controls the weather, right? Geoengineering is working? Like, climate change is absurd. Me burning a tank of gas doesn't affect the weather. But China does have the capacity to do geoengineering, though. So us doing pollution and not having an effect is impossible and absurd in pseudoscience. But because it's God's plan. But NASA can do geoengineering and affect the planet? Like, do their brains ever explode from the Incoherence? Or do they just not have enough neurons to make the connection?
I think that during the Korean War, as we learned throughout that Chaos book, that we were experimenting with spraying people, spraying products, and I think
Spraying who? You mean Koreans?
that is the true reason that NASA came together, mass poisoning people. I believe that. Dagbert Jonah writes, Candace, can you wish my beautiful wife, Crescenda Arjona, I hope I'm saying it right. Is it Arjona? Probably.
Look how lazy these motherfuckers are. They do like a 50-minute show. And like half of it is fan messages that are like unvetted. Dumb, unvetted fan messages. Fuck, this is amazing, dude.
Crescenda Arjona, a happy birthday. Crescenda Arjona, happy birthday. I hope that's Spanish. If not, then this is just weird. But thank you so much for your support. You write that she's a big fan of mine. God bless you. God bless you. And Crescenda Arjona. If it's not Spanish, it is now. Seven Sheets writes, I didn't know that much about CK before this, but could tell a man of integrity. I feel like I mourned him longer than EK or TPUSA did. I will never believe the slop and will support any voice that is seeking truth. Thank you. God bless you. There's something about this story that I think makes us all feel like we're not safe. Like if they could do that to Charlie and he was playing the game and get away with it, what are we all doing? Like we should just be revolting at all hours of the day. I can't even listen to anything Trump says anymore. I don't care about anything at all. I'm just like, shut up. I hate everybody. You're all fake. You're all actors, actually. That's how I feel. I look at all of them as bad faith actors in the political scene, and none of it is sincere. Comic Nick writes, I said this last week, and I need the world's opinion on this, but why wouldn't Charlie Kirk tell Erica Kirk that they were going to kill him unless he was scared that she was a part of it, of they? Oh, unless he was scared that she was a part of they. This is all I think about when you see her. If Trubus is evil, well, to be charitable, it could also be in a scenario is maybe more chivalrous, that men don't want their wives to be concerned about certain things, because there have certainly been things that, and again, this is a charitable read, that my husband has not told me until after. I'm like, what? Were you just keeping that in forever? Like a soldier? We were dealing with this or whatever, and he just dealt with it and then told me after. So it could have been just giving you another angle on that. He could have not told her for that reason. I'm less inclined to believe that Andrew Colbert and Dan Flood didn't tell her afterward, that she had to rely on his text messages, that wouldn't be the first thing in the investigation that the feds would ask, hey, did Charlie have any fears? And that they wouldn't inform his next of kin of those things, especially Dan Flood, as she's a chairman and CEO. And they're...
To be frank, you could be feeding us conspiracy theories yourself and running skincare ads, but you're doing neither. The thing is, I don't do... Okay, this is too fucking boring for me. I can't keep watching this. I do tell you conspiracy theories. They're just true. But the fact that they're true is kind of unsatisfying. This is one of the problems that the left has. The fact that everything I'm saying is true and verifiable and not really debatable is unsatisfying for the conspiracy brain. For the conspiracy brain, they need the drama of a little bit of uncertainty, right? Like when I say, it's just proven facts. So it's not as entertaining as the possibility that you might be the person to figure something out to prove it. When it's proven, it's not as much fun. And that's the advantage that people like Candace Owens has, is there's a little bit of magic when it's unproven. All right, chat. What else did I want to watch? Oh yeah, the Alex Preddy visual investigation.
When federal agents, 37-year-old Alex, officials said he approached agents.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at this scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement.
But a Times analysis of video footage from the scene and the moments when two officers opened fire clearly contradict federal government statements. Preddy does not appear to pose a threat to agents. In fact, at several critical junctures, he's outnumbered and under their control. Here are the key moments that reveal what happened. We see Preddy walking about, filming a group of protesters who are speaking with a federal agent. He's holding a cell phone in one hand. The other hand is empty. It's just over 30 seconds before the shooting when a protester is pushed to the ground. Preddy steps between her and the agent who'd shoved her, briefly putting his hand on the agent's waist. The agent pepper sprays Preddy's face.
By the way, chat, does it look like Preddy is doing anything, doing any violence?
We can see Preddy is still holding his phone in one hand, while holding his other hand up to protect himself against the spray. Contrary to statements by federal officials, he's made no threatening movements towards agents. Preddy, who had a firearms permit, carries a gun holstered on his right hip, but he doesn't reach for it, and it appears agents are unaware the gun is even there. He reaches toward the protester, apparently trying to help her up, while agents begin grabbing him from behind. He tries to pull away, and again, he makes no threatening movements towards the agents. But agents pull him backwards and force him to the ground.
So what is the crime that he's supposedly committing?
Then, shots ring out. Now we'll slow things down so each moment is clear. Here is Preddy. Several agents are restraining him, and this is the Border Patrol agent who will shoot him first. This appears to be when agents first notice that Preddy is carrying a firearm and yell that he has a gun. Watching the same moment from a different angle, the agent who first pepper sprayed Preddy beats him several times with the spray canister. We can see that both of Preddy's arms are pinned down by his head. This agent in gray reaches to remove Preddy's weapon from his hip. As this agent unholsters his gun, nudges the agent in gray out of the way, and fires. Let's rewind and focus on the agent who shoots first. Just seconds before he fired, he was facing away from Preddy and focusing on an entirely different situation as he tries to spray a nearby woman with an irritant. The spray appears to malfunction, and the agent turns as he adjusts it. That's when someone yells that Preddy has a gun. And around 5 seconds after fully turning his attention toward Preddy, the agent draws his weapon and shoots. His arm visibly recoils at the first shot.
It's not even aimed. He's shooting from the hip. It's not even aimed. He's just shooting from the hip. I mean, it's so mind-numbingly insane of a move.
Firearm has clearly been removed from the scrum when the first shots are fired toward Preddy at close range. The officer who disarmed Preddy can be seen reacting to the sound of the first shot, looking back toward the skirmish. The shooter was standing behind Preddy and not under direct threat, contradicting statements from Homeland Security officials that he fired.
Nobody was under threat. Nobody was under threat except Preddy.
Defensive shots. He also has a vantage point to see the gun pulled from the scene, but it's unclear if he did, and whether he thought a weapon was still on Preddy. He then fires 3 more shots from behind Preddy, whose arms are down as he appears to brace himself against the pavement. In one hand, he still holds his phone, and in his other, his glasses. The agent in gray who removed Preddy's gun carries it across the street. Preddy is disarmed and falling to the ground. But the agent who first pepper sprayed Preddy and later beat him with a canister also pulls out his gun. From a distance, despite the fact that Preddy is lying motionless on the ground, these 2 agents fire 6 more shots. Is under threat.
What the fuck did you just do?
In total, the agents fire 10 shots in 5 seconds. After the shooting, an agent kneeling next to Preddy's body asks where the gun is.
I got the gun. I got the gun.
Showing that not all of the officers seemed to know the weapon had been removed. Agents appear to begin giving medical aid. About 31 seconds elapsed from the time agents first physically engaged Preddy to the moment the last shot was fired.
We're never going to get Preddy's video, guys. Like, phone's probably been destroyed, to be honest with you. I don't know what else to say. And this is what Republicans said about it.
ICE acted appropriately.
As the man was armed, and he brandished his firearm and was waving it wildly, attacking ICE agents.
As you can clearly see from the video, even though his hands were empty, which is a common tactic used by armed individuals.
So after charging at and threatening officials,
as you can clearly see from the video,
he was protecting a woman, but protection can be aggressive.
Especially when armed, and he had multiple firearms.
A rifle, a shotgun, a bazooka.
As you can clearly see from the video,
even though none of that is visible.
The man then escalated to heavy military equipment, including a tank, as you can clearly see from the video.
Even though he was in the fetal position, tanks are stealthy when imminently used. He also had a lightsaber.
And while swinging it recklessly, and reportedly using the dark side of the Force.
At this point, he was confirmed to have the Infinity Gauntlet with all the stones, and was poised to Thanos snap and wipe out half of all living things.
And as he could technically wield space and time to his will, this makes him totally in control of the situation.
And thusly completely responsible for this entire situation. So in conclusion, ICE are not accountable in any way. The man who they murdered died is.
As you can clearly see from the video. ICE.
All right, everybody. I'm going to call it there today. Thank you so much for all the support. We went over 5 hours this stream. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to continue the streak, the hot streak of Mike from PA streams. We got to make that push. Oh, that reminds me. This weekend is if you're in the Southern California, this weekend we're going to have DSA general membership meeting. It's a great meeting to go to get involved. So if you're in the Los Angeles area, go to this weekend on Saturday, go to dsala.org and put that on your calendar. All right, everybody, stay safe. Solidarity forever, my friends. We're gonna win, and we will get vengeance for Preddy. Vengeance for Preddy. All right, everybody. Solidarity forever. I'm sending you over to VO. Thank you so much for all of your support. And just remember, Palestine will be free and we will win.